Whispering voices remark that the young lady looks incredibly pitiful while sitting alone. More whispers spread about the Duke's heartless treatment of his daughter, especially given her fragile health. One maid's heart breaks for the girl, while another expresses a wish to be kinder to her. The blonde girl clenches her fists in rage, shouting that she can hear every word the idiots are saying. As the soul of the great black dragon laments being trapped in a human body, a maid calls out to her. The blonde girl stands up abruptly with a look of realization, announcing that he has finally arrived. She rushes across the room, blaming her current predicament on a specific human. From her window, the girl spots the master of House Oxion, the hero who once defeated the Great Calamity. She grits her teeth, struggling to accept the harsh reality of her situation.
A maid assumes the girl is shivering with excitement, asking if they should go greet him.
A narrator notes that the man outside is the father of the body she now possesses.
The blonde girl is consumed by visible, trembling fury.
She throws a massive tantrum on the floor, screaming that she would rather die than go greet him. History speaks of 5 dragons who were fragments of the lords, protecting empires and receiving human reverence.
However, one deviant dragon existed outside the norm, far from the influence of the lords.
This creature left nothing but scorched earth in its wake, destroying every living thing. This utterly wicked existence was known as Celis, the Great Calamity. Celis was so powerful that humans, elves, and even the 5 protector dragons could not stop him.
The reign of terror seemed eternal until a scarred hero stood alone against the wounded dragon.
The dragon is shocked that a human somehow knew to strike the core located in its left eye. The hero raises his blade to end the difficult fight, while the dragon seethes at his audacity. The hero delivers a final strike as the dragon roars in disbelief at being bested by a mere human. Unable to kill the beast, the hero seals Celis for 1,000 years, promising his descendants will finish the job. Celis feels the profound unfairness of being sealed simply for being born as a calamity. From within the seal, the dragon vows to return and slaughter both the hero and his entire bloodline. Decades later, the blonde girl in a flower-filled coffin snaps her eyes open with a murderous intent. She sits up confused, surrounded by question marks, as a man nearby stares in total shock. Hysteria erupts among the staff as they scream that the young lady has miraculously come back to life. A week passes since the dragon's soul entered this new human vessel. The girl finds that the fusion of soul and body took time, leaving her limbs feeling heavy. Looking in a mirror, she feels disgusted that she looks exactly like the hero who sealed her.
She notes that no one suspects the change, even the hero who showed no interest when she revived.
She finds it strange that as the hero's daughter, she is treated with more coldness than a stranger.
She recalls memories of other human families who were defined by love and tears. She decides to exploit her new status, carrying both the hero's bloodline and the soul of the calamity.
The image of the legendary swordmaster lingers in her mind. She gleefully imagines the moment she reveals her true identity as the Black Dragon to her shocked father. With a joyful expression, she declares her new goal is to become the head of the family. A sudden thought causes her to pause and examine her reflection closely.
She suddenly loses her strength and slumps to the floor.
She realizes her magic is blocked by a massive barrier, wondering if it's due to her young age. A status window for Daphne Action appears, showing high charm but 0 magic and a list of terrible personality traits. Daphne panics over her pathetic stats and lack of magic power before a sudden cough stops her. She is paralyzed with shock as she stares at the blood she just coughed into her hands. Maids rush to her side in a panic, calling for a physician while Daphne struggles to breathe. As she is laid back in bed, she feels a haunting sense of familiarity about her failing health. She overhears the maids mourning her terminal illness and realizes the body she possessed is dying. The scene shifts to a memory from decades ago. A man claiming to be a great sage appeared, spouting nonsense about ancient prophecies. The hooded sage claimed to know everything, predicting the dragon would one day become an insignificant creature. Celis recalls throwing the annoying sage across the continent after he refused to stop rambling about the prophecy. Daphne suspects the sage anticipated her possession of this body, but her thoughts are cut short by a violent, hacking cough that prompts a scolding from her maid. She laments her pathetic physical stats, noting her terrible stamina and magic power despite her maximum charm. Looking intensely serious, Daphne demands to know the specific nature of her illness, causing the maid to falter. The maids admit they are hesitant to speak because the original Daphne used to turn violent and throw vases at the mere mention of her condition. Daphne promises not to lash out, allowing the maids to reveal that she suffers from the infamous black butterfly disease. The dark name of the condition lingers ominously in the air. She recalls from an encyclopedia that the disease is likely a dark magic curse that manifests as butterfly-shaped marks on the skin.
The curse is a death sentence that claims the victim's life once all 4 wings of the mark turn completely black.
Daphne checks her own mark and notes that only half of a single wing has blackened so far. She questions why the original soul died so early if the curse was only in its beginning stages, surprising the maids.
The maids realize they have a strange gap in their memories, only recalling that the young lady's health took a sudden, unexplained turn for the worse.
Daphne finds it suspicious that these attentive maids would forget such a critical detail, sensing that something is very wrong. She realizes the body was already deceased before her soul arrived, leading her to wonder if she was actually murdered.
Looking at the oblivious staff, she deduces that a powerful magic was used to erase everyone's memories of the event.
She considers the possibility that a dark mage is behind the manipulation of this household. Daphne asks if her revival is public knowledge, realizing her body was likely the specific target of the previous attack. The maid reveals that her father ordered them to keep the news secret because he expected her to die again shortly. While she is glad the dark mages don't know she's alive, she is furious at her father's cold-blooded and impure motives. Her fury boils over into a violent tantrum as she thrashes against her pillows in frustration. The maid tries to be encouraging, announcing that a famous new physician has been hired to treat her.
A handsome elf physician with long green hair is introduced as the family's new medical expert.
The elf secretly mocks the capital's nobles, viewing them as easy targets for his financial schemes. He reveals himself to be a fraud who plans to take the family's money and flee if he is pressured to actually provide a cure. Sudden dread washes over the elf as he senses a terrifyingly familiar aura that should not exist in human society. He trembles as he opens the door, seeing the spectral image of the great black dragon looming behind the small child. A quick, sharp tack sounds as the terrified elf immediately slams the door shut. Shaking with fear, the elf wonders why a dragon is present as Daphne casually asks if he is leaving already. The physician collapses to his knees, completely overwhelmed by the girl's presence. When Daphne asks if he knows her, the elf immediately acknowledges her as the great Lord Celis. He grovels before her, claiming that only the legendary dragon could possess such a formidable aura. Daphne finds him promising and asks if he has been appointed as her personal physician. The elf enthusiastically accepts the role, promising to dedicate himself to the treatment of the dragon's new vessel. Daphne sternly commands him to address her by her human name to maintain their cover. The elf is deeply confused as to why a creature as powerful as a dragon would choose to inhabit a weak human body. Daphne claims she is simply playing a game to experience human life, and the elf eagerly believes she is hiding her power on purpose. He credits her perfect concealment to her draconic nature, ignoring her obvious flustered reaction. Daphne shifts the focus back to her survival, ordering him to help her find a way to cure the black butterfly disease. The elf is momentarily stunned, asking her if she is certain about the diagnosis. He explains that the condition isn't a medical illness but a dark magic curse that requires a spiritual breaking rather than a physical cure. Daphne clutches her chest as she processes the reality that her body has been deliberately cursed. The elf clarifies that the young girl herself was innocent and did nothing to deserve such a fate. He narrows his eyes, preparing to reveal the true source of the dark magic. The physician points a gloved finger toward the root of the problem. He places the blame entirely on the hero who leads the Axion family. Ancient words describe the sun destroying the night in a cycle of inevitable conflict. A dying mage rages against the injustice of the sun's light, vowing to leave a curse that will ensure the sun never shines again. In the context of this legend, the sun represents the hero while the night represents the dark mage he defeated. The elf concludes that hero's action invited this ruin upon his own house by slaying the mage and taking on an unbearable curse. Daphne asks why only her body was cursed.
The elf physician holding signs of other children asks if she means the other Axion heirs, while Daphne demands to know why only she was targeted.
The green-haired physician explains she took over the body blindly, and when Daphne asks if he's mocking her, he immediately denies it. History notes the hero has 4 children, starting with the first child Lachey, the second child Vipera, and the third child Arius. Because the first 3 are adopted, Daphne is revealed as the only biological child of the Axion family. Daphne realizes with shock that she was cursed and is now dying entirely because of the hero's actions.
A voice confirms her suspicion is correct.
In a red-tinted rage, Daphne screams about him never visiting her, and when told the hero hates her, she demands to know why. The elf physician kneels before the young lady in the center of the room. The physician tells Daphne that humans are selfish, as she laments being born and then hated for a curse she didn't choose. With a murderous glare, Daphne decides it is time to beat up the hero who is worse than a beast. Past records show the vassals were never satisfied with Heroes leading the house. Heroes only gained his title through his status as the strongest swordmaster and the emperor's recognition despite his illegitimate birth. Even though Heroes became the Grand Duke, the internal strife within the family continued during meetings. The man identified as Count Imperial states that he cannot understand the decision made by the Duke. Count Imperial questions why storehouses are being opened for commoners during a crop failure, while the man with glasses sighs at the repetitive argument. Marquise Guérin, identified as Hero's confidant, argues that the citizens will starve to death without the relief measures. Count Imperial suggests the people should just eat roots in the mountains despite them being ruled by dragons. A loud, sharp bang sounds as Marquis Guérin shouts at the Count, arguing that while population support is needed, the current plan is premature. Count Imperial takes a personal jab at the Duke's childhood on the streets, causing the man with glasses to look away in annoyance. A sudden, quick tap sounds as a hand hits the table, recalling a memory of a castle burning down during an extravagant engagement ceremony. Heroes shows the nobles an image of a burning mansion, explaining that commoners did it out of rage before asking if they finally understand. A loud, crushing crunch sounds as Hero slams the table, warning the nobles to compromise if they wish to keep their heads. A huge crater smokes in the middle of the table after Hero's strike, prompting a noble to clear his throat nervously. A noble quickly stammers that the matter should be considered settled following the show of force. When the noble mentions the vacant position of Grand Duchess, Hero's grip cracks the table further, causing the aide to panic over the difficult meeting. A sudden, heavy bang sounds, causing the man with glasses to look up in surprise. Daphne marches into the council chamber with the elf physician peeking from behind the open door. Daphne stops at the end of the table and coldly greets the hero after their long separation. The nobles at the table are stunned into silence, whispering in disbelief that the young lady has actually appeared. A sudden, sharp crash sounds as a glass shatters against the wall behind Heros, while a noble shouts in alarm. Heros rests his chin on his hand and calmly asks what is happening so suddenly. A light, quick thud sounds as Daphne jumps onto the conference table, shouting that he brought her into the world on his own whim. A rhythmic tap sounds as Daphne walks across the table toward the Duke, accusing him of causing her curse. Standing directly in front of him, Daphne shouts that he is failing to act like a proper father after everything he has done. Heros looks at her with glowing blue eyes and asks if she is truly resenting him after all this time. Daphne declares that he isn't even worthy of her resentment as a sharp swoosh sounds from her throwing a quill pen. Daphne holds the red quill pen like a dagger in front of Heros' face while he remains completely expressionless. With a terrifying expression, Daphne vows that she will not die, but will instead survive and kill the hero. The council room stands empty and still following the young lady's dramatic exit. Hero stares at the red feather in his hand, appearing completely dazed and lost in thought. The chibi nobles whisper among themselves, noting that the Duke doesn't seem angry about the girl's behavior at all. Marquise Guérin explains that the Duke cannot feel anger because a dark mage's curse stripped away all of his emotions. Heroes rests his head on his hand while holding the quill, wondering what the young girl is actually thinking. Daphne's original soul is shown in a dark room as the narrator notes she was the only blood heir of the family. The past is recounted, describing a child born in pain who acted out against servants before being exiled to the Annex by Heros. The dark and foreboding Annex building where Daphne was sent to live out her final days is shown. The narrator recalls that while she was expected to die quietly, she instead came back to life and caused a massive scene. Marquise Guérin looks out the window at the bright sky, remarking that things are finally getting interesting. Daphne lets out a joyful shout, declaring that her outburst was incredibly refreshing, while the elf smiles in the background. Daphne reflects on her declaration of war against the hero as a voice calls her name. The elf physician laughs joyfully and asks if he may take his leave now. A dark aura surrounds the young lady's ominous expression. The physician panics as Daphne asks if he is trying to run away from her. The elf insists he would dedicate his life to her, but claims he has too many other contracted jobs to stay. Daphne tells him he is being too noisy, and the physician immediately agrees to shut up. Daphne notes that she survived the curse with only half a wing turned black, while the elf slumps in distress. A sharp realization flashes in the physician's eye as he processes the mention of being killed. The sweating elf asks if she wants him to investigate something, mentioning he can connect her to an information guild. The elf calls her considerate for being kind to lowborns, but Daphne interrupts to tell him he will be making medicine instead. A text box explains she needs medicine to help her body recover its stamina. A vibrant, glowing vial of pink medicine is showcased against a floral background. The physician holds up his doctor's bag, prompting a frustrated Daphne to ask if he is saying he cannot do the task. The elf enthusiastically accepts his new role as a pharmacist, which Daphne finds acceptable. Daphne crosses her arms and notes that changing one's professional focus is a difficult task.
The young lady's face hardens with renewed determination. Anna the maid looks worriedly at her companion and asks if she feels the change too. Anna's eyes widen as she asks if the other maid means something about the young lady.
The young girl stands alone, her profile showing a calm and mature expression.
The maids recall how the young lady has stopped throwing things and now drinks her tea peacefully. They note how her way of speaking has changed to sound like a grandmother despite her being only 5 years old.
A maid worries that Daphne went to the training grounds alone to try and catch the master's eye.
While the maid watches her sleep, Daphne mutters about the hero, unaware she is actually dreaming of revenge.
The maid's misunderstanding deepens as they decide to make snacks for the girl trying to earn her father's recognition.
Looking over the empty training grounds, Daphne is pleased that all the nuisances have finally left.
Daphne sits cross-legged on the ground, wearing simple training clothes and focused on her task.
She realizes her lack of magic is due to the curse and prepares to draw out the dragon's power from her soul.
Establishing a mana vessel becomes her immediate priority as a bright light begins to glow. A small, glowing mana stone is revealed in her hand. Daphne prepares to consume the stone, noting that Tati channeled magic power into it the previous day. A sharp gasp sounds as Daphne's body is racked with pain from the intense magic.
Mana swirls in her chest and flows through her blocked vessels as she tells herself not to rush.
Daphne groans in agony as her eyes glow with a piercing green light.
A wet, heavy splash sounds as Daphne coughs up a large amount of black liquid onto the ground.
A system notification confirms that her mana storage and vessel have been successfully formed.
Chibi Daphne laughs triumphantly, declaring herself to be absolutely amazing.
The young lady wipes the dark residue from her chin with a serious expression.
Daphne looks down at the black puddle, disgusted by what she identifies as a trace of the curse.
A light, quick pop sounds as she stores a sample in a vial to have Toddy examine it later.
A sudden, sharp thwack sounds as Daphne is struck on the back of the head.
Furious, Daphne turns around and demands to know who dared to hit her.
A red-haired boy stands with his arms crossed, asking why she has come to the training grounds. The boy is identified as Arius Actaeon, the second son, who tells her she is bad luck and should leave. Daphne coldly says she will remember his last words, leaving the boy confused.
Daphne clenches her fist as Arius remarks that she has changed in a very weird way.
Arius scowls at her, telling her that she still looks like she is half dead. He tells her that she is going to die regardless of her struggle and suggests she go back to bullying maids. Standing over her, Arius lists her talents as hitting people, cursing, and throwing tantrums.
Daphne's eyes are cast in shadow as she realizes he is truly the hero's son.
A loud, crushing crack sounds as Daphne's fist connects squarely with the boy's face.
A heavy, dull thud sounds as Arius Actaeon collapses onto the training ground.
Arius stammers in disbelief that she just hit him, but Daphne calmly wipes her hands and reminds him that it is only fair since he hit her first.
A sense of bewilderment fills Arius as he shouts, demanding to know how she could possibly strike her own brother. Daphne stares back with a hollow, questioning look at the mention of a brother. With an expression of cold disdain, Daphne declares that she has never had a brother as rude as him. Daphne reflects on the lonely years she spent without knowledge of her birth, wondering what a family truly meant. She recalls how she used to turn invisible to secretly observe the lives of human families.
She watched as people ate together despite their fights and looked after one another, even when they were angry or sulking.
The young girl observes a mother showing affection through simple, sweet gestures. Daphne tells him that if they were really family, he would have been there when she died and came back to life, so he should stop acting like a brother and stay away from her.
As Arius shouts that he doesn't consider her family either, a sudden, heavy thud sounds from Daphne, stopping in her tracks.
Arius pokes her head and calls her a half-wit and a disgrace to the family, but a sharp, muffled cry sounds as Daphne suddenly bites down hard on his finger. Arius demands to know if she is crazy, but Daphne mockingly asks if his finger hurts since he was moving it so freely in her face.
When Arius challenges her to a fight, Daphne smiles and wonders what he could possibly do when he keeps getting beaten by her.
Arius lets out a loud, frustrated shout at her provocations. The imposing figure of Knight Commander Lloyd arrives on the scene. Arius curses the terrible timing while Daphne looks at the newcomer, wondering who he's supposed to be.
Arius is shocked she forgot the commander, but Daphne tells him to shut up and wonders why the man is approaching with such an angry expression.
Arius furiously tries to correct her, arguing that they weren't fighting because she was simply getting one-sidedly beaten. A loud, booming shout rings out as the commander orders them both to stop. A sudden, sharp whoosh sounds as Lloyd steps between them and declares that they have had enough. Daphne looks on coldly, thinking she should have hit Arius one more time before the interruption. Lloyd questions the propriety of them fighting in the sacred training grounds without even holding swords. A light, hollow thud sounds as a wooden sword is dropped onto the ground. Lloyd looks down sternly and commands them to fight with wooden swords instead. The narrator questions the logic of telling a young child to fight with a wooden sword. Daphne lets out a dry laugh and wonders what kind of messed up family she has ended up in. Arius scoffs that the timing is perfect, though he admits fighting a kid who hasn't learned the sword won't be very fun.
A light, quick tap sounds as Daphne takes up the sword, telling Arius that he really isn't fit to be a brother, leaving him shocked.
With a confident smirk, Daphne tells him to stop talking and come at her. Lloyd stands with his arms crossed, watching the children in silence.
Lloyd wonders if he was too harsh, but quickly decides that the young lady's recent behavior has crossed a line.
He recalls the many times she hit maids or tormented knights, noted as a stain on the family despite being the heir.
Lloyd reflects on her infiltrating the conference room and disrupting the training grounds, noting that the problems are piling up. He expects Lord Arius to be kind and warm-hearted enough to only teach her a moderate lesson.
A quiet murmur rises from the crowd regarding her behavior. The surrounding knights watch the confrontation with expressions of concern and surprise.
A sudden, sharp whoosh sounds as Lloyd turns and asks what everyone is staring at.
Lloyd's eyes widen in sudden, intense shock at the sight before him. He thinks it is impossible for the young lady to have such a stance when she has never learned the sword. Daphne stands in a flawless, perfect sword stance that leaves the commander stunned. Sweating from the shock, Lloyd wonders how on earth such a thing is possible.
The scene shifts into a blurry, textured memory of the past.
A decorative frame announces that decades ago, a fateful meeting occurred at the foot of a mountain.
A young man identified as Silas in polymorph form holds a sword, dismissively asking if it is just something to swing around.
An old man with a gray beard sits quietly among a collection of books. The old man looks up and calls the visitor a brat.
A sharp, heavy whack sounds as the old man strikes the youth, yelling that even a dragon cannot treat his precious sword so poorly.
After the first head flick of his dragon life, the stunned youth listens as the old man offers to teach him the true meaning of a sword. The old man asks if he wants to learn, and the youth reflects that while he wasn't weak, he liked the conviction in the man's eyes. Celis threatens to bite the teacher's head off if he doesn't teach properly, but the old man notes they must start with manners toward his teacher as training begins with the man barking orders for him to bend his knees more while the youth questions if the stance is even correct. The old man barks orders for the youth to make his vertical strikes cleaner without any wavering as Celis strains under the physical demand. The teacher mocks the idea of a dragon struggling so much while birds chirp peacefully in the trees, only to order 3,000 more diagonal strikes as Celis lets out an agonized scream. A sudden, heavy thud sounds as the exhausted youth collapses onto the training ground. Celis pants on the ground and asks if he is finally a swordmaster, but the old man scoffs that he is still 100 years away, prompting the youth to grumble that the human has no idea how scary dragons actually are. The teacher tells him to get up again since he needs to see the dull reptile become a master, leaving Celis to complain that he literally just sat down. Narrator notes he didn't dislike that life. Celis smiles while clashing swords with his teacher, reflecting that the sweat he shed felt valuable, and being with someone who didn't hate him was a unique comfort.
He realizes that the experience was far more enjoyable than he had ever expected.
A year passes in this manner before a loud, sudden bang sounds as Celis bursts through a door to ask what they will be learning today. He enters the room and wonders why the teacher is sleeping in so late, which is unusual for him. A series of quick, light thuds sounds as the youth rushes to the bed and tells the man to wake up because he is in great condition. Celis grabs the man's pale hand and notes he might finally become an expert knight, but his expression suddenly hardens as he realizes there was one thing he completely overlooked. Staring at the motionless figure, the youth quietly asks the old man if he has died.
A somber text box notes that a human's lifespan is incomparably shorter than his own.
Looking down at the peaceful face, Celis asks again if the man has truly died.
A soft, long shh sounds through the quiet room as the sun shines through the window. Standing alone, Celis demands to know what he is supposed to do if the man dies so meaninglessly before seeing him become a master, noting that there is barely any time left.
He trembles as his voice trails off, left with unspoken words. A soft, wet drip sounds as a tear rolls down his face while he realizes he still doesn't even know the man's name.
A decorative frame explains that after that day, he never went down to the human world again.
Narrator notes he didn't understand the tears flowing down his cheeks as he leaves flowers at a simple stone grave. Celis sits alone by the grave and admits he has realized how lonely his existence is, wondering if the man even likes the flowers he picked. To escape the memories of the human, the youth buries himself in the mountains and devotes every waking moment to intense sword training. He continues his training until his cheeks remain dry even when looking at the grave. Back in the present, a light, quick snap sounds as Daphne grips her wooden sword with a predatory smirk. Daphne prepares to strike as Arius watches in shock, telling him not to blink.
With a fierce glare, she tells the fool not to underestimate her.
A loud, sharp crack sounds as their wooden swords collide with immense force.
Daphne's perfect disciplined stance is highlighted as she maintains her focus.
Arius is wide-eyed with disbelief at the power behind her heavy strike.
As she prepares her next move, she suddenly realizes there was one crucial thing she forgot. A soft, light wobble sounds as Daphne's vision begins to spin and she loses her balance.
A heavy, dull thud sounds as the young lady collapses face first onto the ground while the crowd watches in confusion.
A system notification confirms her stamina is depleted, leaving Daphne's spirit to grumble about overdoing it as her body fails her. Arius looks up and calls out to the commander.
Lloyd stares in stunned silence, wondering if he really just witnessed such a sight while Arius asks what he is talking about.
Arius shouts in disbelief that a 5-year-old kid could swing a sword with such perfect form.
He recalls being told she had never even held a sword before today.
Arius reflects that her vertical strike was far more skilled than his own, despite him training for 3 years.
He wonders if this incredible skill is simply the power of their bloodline.
Looking down at his sister, he feels a surge of frustration after working so hard himself.
A sharp, heavy creak sounds as Arius clenches the hilt of his wooden sword in silence. Arius orders the commander to call a physician and move her, to which Lloyd quickly agrees. Arius demands that starting today, the commander must teach him as his personal student.
The scene shifts to the mansion at sunset as Anna asks the young lady if she feels dizzy.
The maids crowd around Daphne and ask how her body feels or if she wants to break anything, but the young lady tells them to just clean up because they are making her uncomfortable. The chibi maids mope as Daphne realizes that fainting after only one strike means she desperately needs to increase her strength. Daphne recalls how she never needed stamina training as a dragon with maxed out stats and wonders who she should ask for help before a sudden idea strikes her. Anna informs Daphne that the Knight Commander wishes to see her, prompting a skeptical response from the young lady.
Daphne agrees to the meeting, curious about the strength of a human commander and seeing it as a timely opportunity.
Lloyd visits Daphne's quiet bedroom.
When Daphne asks why he is there, the commander admits he has a specific question for her.
He asks if she has ever practiced swordsmanship, but the girl replies that her current body hasn't.
Stunned by the confirmation, Lloyd realizes that her previous display of skill was pure, unbridled talent.
Lloyd asks if she plans to continue learning, but Daphne notes her physical state is a significant hurdle.
She explains that she collapses after a single strike, leaving the commander to ponder her fragile condition.
Lloyd suggests a simple solution for building stamina. The young lady just needs to start running.
He reflects on the tragedy of such immense talent being housed in a fragile, cracked vessel that needs preservation.
The commander laments that her health prevents her from properly succeeding the family legacy. Lloyd offers a respectful bow and departs so that she can continue her rest in peace.
A sudden, sharp click sounds as the bedroom door is closed behind him.
Daphne's hand tightens around her blanket in a surge of silent indignation at the mention of the hero.
Furious at the comparison, the girl finds the idea of merely succeeding a human hero to be an insult.
With a burning resolve, Daphne declares that she has no interest in succeeding anyone. She intends to surpass them.
She vows to rise above that bastard hero, even if it causes her physical form to break apart.
A light, quick thud sounds as a boot strikes the dirt.
Anna watches in a panic, warning the young lady that she will collapse if she attempts a third lap.
Daphne ignores the noise and focuses on her pace, noting that running feels like a full-speed sprint in this body.
Collapsing in exhaustion, the girl is delighted to see a system notification confirming a stat increase. Arius approaches and tells her to stop before the maids cry, but Daphne threatens to do more laps if he keeps talking.
She notes with satisfaction that her strength has finally reached a 4 on the system screen.
The young lady hums a happy tune, imagining her revenge will be completed sooner than expected.
She credits Toddy's medicine for accelerating her progress and feels she may be ready for a sword again soon.
A sudden heavy stomp sounds as Lloyd joins her, noting she hasn't stopped training for 2 weeks.
Daphne dismissively tells him to leave, but she is internally confused by his newfound friendliness.
The commander admits he is grateful because her dedication has significantly boosted the knight's morale.
Daphne is genuinely confused as to why her training would affect anyone else.
Lloyd explains that the knights are motivated by watching her push past her physical limits every day.
Looking around, Daphne realizes that the dawn training sessions are now packed with soldiers. She scoffs that the knights must be in poor shape if they need a child to inspire them.
A soft, quick halt sounds as Lloyd stops walking to speak more seriously. Daphne turns to face him, sensing a change in the atmosphere.
The tall commander stands silently. A heavy, expectant silence falls.
Narrator notes that while many think she has an incurable disease, Lloyd is among the few who know it is a curse.
Lloyd kneels, acknowledging the invisible pain and suffering the young lady must be enduring.
He looks her in the eye.
He admits his words may be rude given her fate, but he genuinely hopes she can overcome the curse.
Lloyd expresses his belief that she might actually succeed, though Daphne calls his faith nonsense. A bright, innocent smile appears. Internally, she reaffirms that, as a great being, the concept of giving up has never existed for her. Despite her pride, Daphne collapses in the dirt, her spirit nearly leaving her body after 16 grueling laps. A light, hollow thud sounds as a wooden sword is dropped. Arya stands over her with a grin, demanding they finish the match they started previously.
Daphne looks up from the ground with a face covered in dirt and sweat.
She flatly refuses, snapping at him to open his eyes and look at her exhausted state.
The girl yells that she is clearly out of stamina after running laps and has no energy for a spar.
Arya's falters, completely caught off guard by her fierce refusal. Shocked, wide-eyed Kuryai, Arya scratches his neck and wonders if the girl noticed her improvement, though it doesn't show externally. Daphne grunts as she acknowledges that while she has improved, she has a long way to go to become strong. Pointing a scratched finger, Daphne notes that the Knight Commander is standing right there. A sudden, quick pat sounds as Arius demands she match his form, but Daphne firmly rejects him. A soft, sharp creak sounds as Arius grinds his teeth in frustration, letting out a pained groan. A loud, sharp crack sounds as Arius yells that he wants to see her form right now. Daphne smirks, finding his desperate demand quite amusing. Looking down at him, Daphne suggests that if he wants to see it so badly, he should just ask her to teach him. Smug blonde girl glows with confidence. Daphne repeats her playful request for the boy to ask for her help. Daphne's condescension leaves Arius completely speechless as she offers to teach him. Daphne warns Arius that he will be swinging a sword with terrible form forever unless he learns from her.
Verbal arrows strike Arius as Daphne says she won't force him to learn, threatening to just go run instead.
A heavy, trembling thud sounds as Arius clenches his fist and struggles to swallow his pride. Daphne mocks him for being too quiet and prepares to leave if he has nothing to say. Arius explodes with a blush, screaming for her help and demanding she doesn't take the offer back later. Daphne is satisfied by his submission, noting that adults should give their all to a child's learning.
A soft, light pat sounds as the lesson begins with Daphne telling the nervous boy to hold his sword.
A loud, sharp whistle sounds as Daphne barks corrections about his back and arms, demanding he use more power. Arius shouts in frustration, asking how he is supposed to copy her perfectly just by listening. Daphne agrees to provide a physical demonstration, noting she has recovered enough stamina to show him a few strikes. A loud, sharp swoosh sounds as Daphne performs a vertical strike with perfect precision. Looking at her strike, Arius is overwhelmed by her talent and concludes it must be the power of their bloodline. A soft, wet sniff sounds as Arius resolves to rely on his effort even if his talent falls short. Arius thinks that if he rises above Daphne, then surely he can succeed, but a sudden cough stops him.
A soft, wet drip sounds as Daphne collapses to her knees, coughing up fresh blood.
Panicked, Arius screams for a physician while Daphne stares in shock at the blood staining her hands. Daphne recalls the elf physician Toddy waving off side effects as a normal part of the healing process.
Toddy explains that symptoms vary based on her stamina, though Daphne remains skeptical.
A soft, sharp cough sounds as Daphne curses the quack elf for calling coughing up blood mere bloating.
A light, quick blink sounds as Daphne wakes up in her bed, feeling exhausted.
Birds chirp softly as the sun rises, and Daphne realizes she is getting used to the fainting cycle.
A heavy, sudden thump sounds as Daphne jumps out of bed, vowing to catch that damn elf first. Daphne gasps in shock at herself. She stares intently at her hand. A system scan appears, showing her updated stamina and strength. A bright digital chime sounds as a notification confirms her stamina has increased by 20 points.
Daphne reevaluates the doctor, deciding to postpone killing him since he isn't a complete quack.
A heavy, sudden jump sounds as Daphne cheers, delighted that her stamina has shot up as well. A group of knights blocks the path, shouting a firm refusal. Daphne is confused by their sudden rush and their refusal to let her pass. Daphne explains she is heading for more stamina training, to which the knights agree firmly. The knights insist that she cannot go because she collapsed only yesterday, warning of terrible consequences. A heavy, firm step sounds as a knight orders her to move back, but Daphne tells him to move aside. Daphne glares with a dark intensity, asking if they are daring to block her path.
A soft, quick flinch sounds as the knight is unsettled by the murderous look in her eyes. The knights beg for her to kill them first if she must go, insisting they cannot yield.
The young lady stands silently before the bowing, desperate soldiers.
A loud, sharp thwack sounds as the lead knight strikes his subordinate's head to keep their desperate ruse going.
The nervous knights ask if that is their wish. Drawing her blade with a sinister smile, the girl promises a painless end as a sudden, shrill "Kiaya" rings out from someone wondering who gave her a real sword.
Daphne questions if they intend to defy the count, while the soldiers sob and worry for her safety.
The commander stands firm before the knights. The gray-haired knight argues that the count has urgent business and official permission to borrow staff from the Grand Duke.
Lloyd dismisses the hunting trip as a personal matter that the Grand Duke never authorized.
The commander explains that they are occupied with training Lord Arius and cannot visit the Count's house for at least a month.
A smirking knight scoffs at the training, asserting that the noble-blooded heir is far more important. He warns Lloyd against offending the Count over a mere brat as the commander glares silently.
The girl observes the attempt to reassign the boy's subordinates to the so-called Count's heir.
Dismissing humans as pitiful, the girl decides to let things play out without her direct interference.
Arius watches the confrontation from the shadows of a grand pillar.
The boy hides his face in sadness.
Arius overhears the knight's cruel insults, calling him a nameless commoner's kid who will soon be kicked out.
The knight continues his malicious gossip, suggesting they find new ways to survive before the lady dies. The gray-haired knight coldly asks if the man is finished talking.
Startling the knight, the girl appears and asks why he is holding a funeral while she is still alive.
She demands he continue his last words so she can at least listen to them. The terrified knight stammers that he thought the young lady never left her room.
Arius weeps in the shadows as he reaffirms his identity as a member of the house in his heart.
The girl asserts that the boy is undeniably a child of House Axion.
With a chilling threat, she offers to arrange a personal meeting with the hero if they persist in their denial.
The knights frantically apologize for their misspeaking and beg for forgiveness.
They promise to be careful from now on.
The girl lectures them on manners, questioning the purpose of punishment if apologies were sufficient.
She orders the knight to slam his head down while the others watch in shock.
Birds watch as the group of knights is forced to slam their heads against the ground.
The knights remain in their humiliating pose.
The commander gives a thumbs up as the girl tells those who were silent to stay quiet.
The girl reflects on how all humans are equally insignificant and finds status discrimination absurd. She declares she won't tolerate bullying the weak just as the boy calls her name. Arius stands tall holding a bouquet of lilies. He pushes the flowers toward her, asking when she came out.
Blushing furiously, the boy admits he heard she woke up safely and brought her the gift. He declares that he no longer feels any shame about being adopted. A warm memory of being accepted surfaces. Arius reflects on his internal struggle with his name and the anxiety caused by the knight's slander.
He recalls his deep-seated doubts about his place in the family. He remembers being a nameless commoner child and fearing his father shared the knight's disdain. A moment of quiet, heavy reflection follows. The girl snaps at him. The boy smiles brightly and expresses his deep gratitude. He reflects on their past, acknowledging both her harsh words and his own mistakes. Arius begins to say something else, his face turning bright red. Losing her patience, the girl tells him to stop acting crazy as her anger flares. He bashfully repeats his thanks for her help. The girl looks at him in headry. She agrees to accept the flowers, prompting a happy response from her brother. She explains that true pride comes from apologizing for one's wrongs, regardless of who the other person is. She reflects on the importance of vowing to never repeat a mistake.
She tells him that pride is the foundation of identity.
The young lady stands amidst a garden of white lilies. A soft, quick swish sounds as the boy agrees she is right, but finds hearing it from her extremely irritating. The girl reflects on her past as a hated calamity before surprisingly apologizing for her previous words. A soft, quick scratch sounds as the boy is startled by her apology and says he is sorry for making her overexert herself. She is stunned that someone is finally accepting what she says. The girl teases him about his tact, while the boy protests that he was speaking as tactfully as possible. A soft, sharp hiss sounds as he notes that she really has a mouth on her. Lloyd observes the children from a distance and notes they seem surprisingly close. A system window reveals her improved stamina and strength stats as she collapses less frequently. She confidently decides it is time to try sparring with her brother later. She recalls their constant training and how his chatter has become a fun part of her day. She wonders if this new feeling is what humans call bonding. A soft, sharp hiss sounds as her expression turns polt. A heavy, trembling thud sounds as the girl tells the straining elf to lower his form and put more strength into his workout. A soft, wet drip sounds as the elf argues he explained the side effects, but she ignored him, to which she asks if he is blaming her. Toddy admits his explanation was likely insufficient, while the girl recalls how he ignored 3 of her summons. A light, sudden jump sounds as the girl decides she must learn magic because the elf keeps running away from her. A sudden, heavy start sounds as Toddy insists he was only busy making medicine, but the girl threatens to kill him for talking back. A soft, wet sniff sounds as the elf cries that the lady is far too barbaric. A soft, quick flinch sounds as the girl demands to know what he just muttered.
A loud, sharp bang sounds as Toddy blames a bad elf inside him for his words and vows to deal with it, making the girl realize he is completely crazy.
She notes his punishment is insufficient since he ignored her for over a month.
A soft, sharp hiss sounds as she threatens to cut his life tree in half.
A narrator explains that for elves, the life tree is equivalent to a heart. The life tree provides mana to elves and allows them to be one with nature. Toddy begs for mercy, terrified of becoming a powerless elf if his life tree is harmed. A heavy, sudden thud sounds as Toddy grovels on the floor, insisting he was truly busy making medicine. Toddy is confused by her sudden question regarding his magic power. The girl explains she will stuff his magic power into her training, though the elf finds the idea of giving elf power to a dragon strange. Toddy frantically agrees to bring 100 mana stones next time to ensure his survival.
He worries to himself about how difficult it is to obtain that many stones.
The girl offers to personally measure his magic limits, terrifying the elf further. She demands to see the medicine he claimed to be working so hard on. Toddy despairs about having to dip into his emergency fund while the girl waits. A soft, quick turn sounds as Toddy brightens up and offers to explain everything. A loud, sharp clink sounds as he presents a potion that neutralizes her curse and draws out her original power. The girl is impressed by the potion until the elf admits it has a very short duration. Toddy gleefully admits the power only lasts about 10 seconds. A loud, sharp thwack sounds as she orders him to slam his head down in disappointment. A soft, light rustle sounds as they enter a lush, sun-drenched forest. A map indicates they are at the Insia mountain range on the border of the territory. A soft, light touch sounds as she feels the strong elf aura emanating from the trees.
The girl complains about traveling for training because the elf is incompetent, while he claims to be a faithful servant.
A soft, light rustle sounds as she orders the elf to guard the area during her mana training to prevent a rampage. A soft, heavy step sounds as Toddy grumbles about guarding a dragon and how others would think he is crazy for saying it. The elf wonders why a dragon would inhabit such a weak body and concludes she did not enter it on purpose. Toddy wishes he could understand what the mysterious girl is thinking. A soft, quick scratch sounds as Toddy wonders if her brain is just made of muscle because she cannot concentrate. A soft, wet drip sounds as the elf sheds a tear, wondering how he got caught by such a psycho dragon.
Toddy prays for the dragon's next reincarnation to be an ant.
The young lady stares ahead with a cold, unreadable expression.
She celebrates her magic power increasing to a respectable level.
Toddy asks if she is finished, and she agrees to stop for the day. Distant screams of terror interrupt their quiet training session. Toddy hears human screams, but the girl remains indifferent.
The elf urges a quick departure before things get noisier.
She condemns humans as selfish beings who only care about themselves. The girl shocks the elf by declaring she will save them. She prepares to use the specialized medicine the elf provided. Narrator reflects on the laws of cause and effect in this word. The evaluation of an action depends entirely on the being performing it.
A gold dragon's destruction is reframed as a good deed by fate.
Conversely, Celis the Black Dragon is deemed pure evil and hunted.
The girl watches bandits ambush a carriage in the valley below.
A masked bandit with an eye patch notices something nearby.
The bandits spot the child and wonder why she is alone.
The girl counts 13 enemies and checks for any other witnesses. A bald bandit mocks the girl for running away from home. A guard fights desperately and begs the child to run away.
A sudden, sharp strike sounds as the guard is brutally defeated.
The bandit orders his men to seize the child immediately. She reflects on how insignificant humans meet insignificant deaths before her.
She consumes the potion, deciding she cannot leave the humans alone.
A worried subordinate asks if the guildmaster is still alive. The guildmaster groans that he is fine but remains stunned. He stares in disbelief at the pile of defeated bandits. The man realizes a small child saved the sacred relic. He notes she took everyone down with a simple wooden sword. The girl mocks the bandits for falling to a single head. The guildmaster realizes she defeated 13 fighters instantly. He recognizes her blonde hair and incredible skill.
He approaches her with extreme caution and a stammering voice.
He asks if she is Lady Daphne, which surprises her.
Edhart introduces himself and expresses his deep awe. He grabs her hands and thanks her for saving them. The girl is stunned to finally be thanked for her actions. Edhart beams with gratitude while tears well in his eyes. The girl remains silent as the weight of the moment hits. She reflects on never hearing those words in her past life.
She wonders if her new body has changed the laws of causality. She realizes she can live an ordinary life instead of as a calamity. A soft, light chuckle sounds as she realizes causality can be overcome.
Toddy watches her with concern as she laughs to herself. The elf points out she used magic under the potion's influence.
The girl dismisses his concern with a blunt response. A sudden, wet cough sounds as the girl collapses, vomiting blood. Information regarding commissions and future series updates is displayed.
A man with glasses holds important documents regarding the attack.
They discuss interrogating survivors to uncover a possible internal traitor.
The blonde man asks how the enemies knew to ambush the group. He is informed that the guildmaster will return the commission payment since the item is a sacred relic.
A soft, quick scratch sounds as he agrees to the terms while signing a document.
The assistant confirms Lady Daphne defeated 13 bandits with a wooden sword, which the man finds hard to believe.
A soft, light touch sounds as he touches the ornate white box and wonders about her motivations. The man stares ahead with a cold, unreadable expression. A soft, quick slide sounds as he orders the interrogation of the captured enemies. A soft, quick step sounds as the assistant asks where the man is heading. A soft, sharp creak sounds as he exits the office through the large double doors. Swirling gray mists indicate the beginning of a reflective memory. A narrator recalls a dream of a village consumed by a massive inferno. She remembers her past life as a dragon trying to fetch water for a fire far beyond her control. A loud, sharp roar sounds as the dragon orders the humans out so she can use protective magic.
Despite her amplified shouts, not a single human emerged from their burning homes.
A soft, quick step sounds as she realized they feared her more than the flames devouring them. A soft, sharp creak sounds as a wooden door is pushed open. A soft, light tap sounds as she looks inside the ruin with glowing purple eyes. A heavy, sudden thud sounds as she stands in the threshold of the burned building. She finds a couple who died in each other's arms just steps away from safety. A soft, wet sniff sounds as she walks away, lamenting their unnecessary agony. A soft, tight squeeze sounds as she accepts her nature as a calamity before waking as a child. A narrator recalls being called Lady Daphne as survivors cheer for her survival.
The humans express profound gratitude, vowing never to forget the kindness she showed them.
A sudden bright flash sounds as the girl wakes up confused about which life was the dream.
She realizes the laws of causality have been severed quite easily.
A soft, low groan sounds as she resolves to investigate the changes, starting with the elf.
A soft, quick flinch sounds as she notes her ruined mood upon seeing the man in her room.
A soft, light rustle sounds as she demands he leave, but he admits curiosity about her changed speech. He asks why her way of speaking changed, and she lies about reading the wrong book. A soft, light slide sounds as he promises to leave after she answers 2 specific questions. A soft, sharp sigh sounds as she finds it fascinating that he immediately focuses on business.
The man listens with a calm, stoic expression.
He explains he is treating her as an individual, offering her the choice to be his daughter again if she wishes. A soft, low growl sounds as she expresses a preference for death over becoming his daughter again. A soft, light touch sounds as she asks about his curiosity while he reaches for the white box. The ornate sacred relic shines with a brilliant, mystical light. He explains it is a dragon's gift, while she is disgusted she protected such garbage and tells him to put it away. The man moves on to his second question. He asks why she saved them, noting she needs a better explanation than just to avoid investigators.
A loud, sharp snap sounds as she yells that it is only natural for the strong to save the weak.
A soft, quiet mumble sounds as the man repeats her words back to himself. He recalls her past cruelty, such as firing a maid or threatening a chef over cold food. A soft, quick slide sounds as he wonders if her brush with death truly changed her. He notices the dark curse is still present on her body despite her strange new behavior. A soft, quick turn sounds as the girl declares the questions are finished and tells him to leave.
The man notes to himself how much she has actually changed.
A soft, light touch sounds as he warns her against any plotting while she sarcastically thanks him for the advice.
A loud, sharp clack sounds as he hands her the relic, noting she is no longer throwing tantrums.
She asks why he is giving her the sacred relic, but he simply tells her to open it. A sudden bright flare sounds as he reveals it is the White Lion's lantern to help her recover. The man dismisses the need for praise and orders Lady Daphne to rest. A soft, sharp creak sounds as he exits the bedroom. Lady Daphne stares intensely at the mysterious lantern. She criticizes the rude way humans give gifts and admits they are difficult to understand. She contemplates the confusing nature of human behavior.
A narrator explains that a secret gambling den for nobles exists beneath the dessert shop.
A noblewoman asks if the culprit behind the recent attack has been identified.
The man explains the captured bandits are stubbornly silent despite being tortured. The woman notes the Grand Duke's frustration since the thieves' identities remain a total mystery. A soft, light rustle sounds as she hides her expression behind a green fan. She suggests an unknown party wiped out the bandits, surprising Edhart.
Edhart chuckles at the rumors spreading despite his attempts to keep things quiet.
The other nobles press Edhart for the vivid details of his eyewitness account. A soft, light splash sounds as Edhart prepares to share his expensive tale. A hooded man pours Edhart a glass of rare, high-quality liquor. Edhart finally agrees to share the details of the encounter. A soft, sharp clock sounds as he recounts the journey toward the Axion territory.
The noblewoman mentions the On-Hole Mercenary Company, known for their swordmaster level skills.
Edhart confirms their strength, but notes they were defeated by a small group of enemies instantly.
Edhart admits he was certain he was going to die during the ambush.
A sudden, bright flash sounds as he reaches the climax of the story. He describes a young child suddenly appearing to defeat the bandits with a wooden sword.
The noblewoman is stunned that a child could defeat over 10 bandits so easily.
A soft, low chuckle sounds as Edhart confirms the child's identity. A vision of Lady Daphne looking calm and powerful appears.
The noblewoman expresses disbelief since Lady Daphne is known to have a weak body.
Edhart explains that the young lady fainted immediately after the fight ended. The hooded man silently reflects on the rumors of the troublesome lady changing.
Edhart admits he doesn't know the reason behind her sudden transformation.
A soft, light step sounds as the hooded man leaves the gambling den. A soft, light rustle sounds as he begins to pull back his heart.
Lord Celis reveals himself with a satisfied, knowing expression.
A maid's voice calls out excitedly to Lady Daphne. A loud, sharp bang sounds as the maid, Anne, bursts into the room with mail. A soft, heavy thud sounds as the young lady demands help while stuck upside down in bed. Lady Daphne reflects on being bedridden for 3 days due to extreme muscle pain.
She notes her recovery was surprisingly fast despite the intense side effects.
A soft, quick puff sounds as she credits her mana breathing for her survival.
She wonders if her father has an ulterior motive for the lantern and asks about the maid's excitement.
Anne presents a ball invitation from Marquis Finch's house.
Anne is overjoyed while Lady Daphne remains unimpressed by the news. The maid explains it is the first social invitation the girl has received in 6 months.
Anne reminds her of the chaos she caused at Count Adel's tea party.
She recounts how the young lady attacked over 10 other children during the event.
Anne highlights that Lady Daphne even broke young Lord Adel's nose. The girl realizes she has a long way to go and asks if Tatia sent word.
A soft, tight squeeze sounds as she recalls threatening the elf to finish his work quickly. A soft, tight squeeze sounds as she clenches her fist with renewed determination.
Lady Daphne orders Anne to help her prepare for another trip outside.
A soft, light rustle sounds as she begins her mana training in the fresh air.
Lady Daphne enjoys the morning air as she continues her mana training.
She spots a glowing blue crystal on the path and considers finding a more energy-rich forest.
She looks around to ensure she is unobserved before examining the valuable item.
A soft, quick rustle sounds as she retrieves the mana crystal from the ground.
A sudden, bright flash sounds as she notices another gem further ahead.
Daphne continues to find crystals scattered along the secluded path, feeling lucky.
A soft, quick slide sounds as she finds a third crystal near a corner.
She realizes she has been following a deliberate trail of gems.
A loud, sharp thud sounds as she accidentally punches a girl in the face with her crystal-filled hand.
Daphne defensively asks who the person is and if they lured her there.
The green-haired girl apologizes for suddenly jumping out and scaring her.
She admits that hitting innocent people is wrong despite her own mistake.
Daphne accuses the girl of being the one who scared people and demands to know her identity.
A soft, tight squeeze sounds as the girl realizes Daphne has no memory of her. She is deeply saddened that Daphne has completely forgotten her existence.
Daphne remains confused and demands a proper explanation for their relationship.
A loud, sharp shout sounds as the girl reveals she is actually Daphne's older sister.
Daphne is stunned by the sudden revelation of having an older sibling.
The green-haired girl waits nervously for her sister to acknowledge her.
Flowers bloom in a quiet moment of reflection between the two sisters.
She introduces herself as Vipera, hoping her name rings a bell.
Viper explains they haven't met in a long time because she struggles to interact with others.
Vipera admits she preferred being forgotten in her room, while Daphne finds the idea incredibly dark.
Vipera reveals she called Daphne there because she has a specific favor to ask.
She nervously asks if she can meet the elf doctor who is currently treating Daphne.
A soft, quick gulp sounds as Vipera prepares herself for Daphne's certain rejection.
Vipera spent all night planning how to persuade her, but Daphne simply and immediately agrees.
Daphne casually promises to arrange the meeting, treating it as a minor request.
Vipera is suspicious, asking if Daphne will change her mind or torment her later.
She stares at Daphne with wide, doubting eyes, unable to believe the kindness.
A soft, sharp clack sounds as Vipera begins to recall Daphne's past cruelty.
A narrator recalls that Daphne used to be a truly terrible child toward her sister. Past Daphne is shown pointing and insulting Viper's hair color every single day. Daphne claimed it looked like muddy water, though Vipera's mother always called it beautiful.
Vipera tried to care for Daphne as instructed by her mother's will, but it was futile.
A loud, sharp shatter sounds as Daphne throws a violent tantrum, rejecting Vipera's presence.
A soft, quick bleed sounds as Vipera hides her injury, still unable to reject her sister.
Vipera reflects on her status as a lucky adopted commoner child after their mother died. She only wanted to live there forever to honor her mother's memory.
A soft, wet sniff sounds as she recalls crying herself to sleep in her loneliness.
A soft, sharp thud sounds as she explains why she finally locked herself in her room.
She lived in isolation where neither Daphne nor the servants ever visited.
Vipera spent a month agonizing over the opportunity to see the elf, expecting abuse in return. She is completely dazed by Daphne's lack of aggression and quick cooperation. Daphne asks why she is still making that face since she already said yes.
A sudden sharp flinch sounds as Vipera begs Daphne not to hit her.
Daphne firmly promises that she will not hit her now or ever again.
She tells Vipera not to be afraid and vows to make her promise the truth.
Daphne dismissively explains that she won't hit anyone without a valid reason anymore.
Vipera looks up with a bright, hopeful smile for the first time.
Vipera smiles brightly amidst blooming roses.
A soft, light sniff sounds as the girl asks why she wants to meet an elf.
The green-haired girl explains she keeps failing at making potions and wants herbology help, while the young lady notes that dwarves are more specialized in alchemy. The green-haired girl admits she is right, but hesitates to continue. She suddenly yells that she cannot trust those bastards and only wants to know if the herbs she has are actually of good quality. She explains her current herbs came from dwarves who forced her to perform weird tasks before they would give them to them.
She complains that they wouldn't accept money and she had to do everything they asked.
The young lady remains skeptical of the girl's frantic explanation. Vipera looks away with a worried and slightly guilty expression.
She reflects on how talented the young lady must be to already be making potions at such a young age.
She notes that the young lady has already managed to win over the difficult dwarves without even realizing it. Lady Daphne imagines the elf as the reigning champion of a lying and sweet-talking competition.
A soft, quick snap sounds as the young lady points upward, setting a condition for the meeting.
Vipera asks nervously about the nature of the condition.
With fire burning behind her, Lady Daphne demands to know the hero's weaknesses and the exact timing for when she can kill him.
The green-haired girl is left completely speechless by the violent request. She feels relieved to not be getting hit but remains deeply unsettled.
She wonders if it is wise to let her sister remain in this changed state.
Sunlight filters over the empty training grounds. Two men whisper about how the young lady is acting especially strange today.
A soft, quick puff sounds as the girl runs intensely during her training session.
The narrator explains that the 3 adopted children became distant from Lord Celis after their mother died.
Lord Celis often left the castle on imperial business, only returning once or twice a month.
His final mission was to kill the Black Dragon, the calamity of the world.
The Emperor's will is represented by a crown looming over the fallen dragon.
A soft, quick slide sounds as the girl stops to wonder why the Emperor ordered her death.
A soft, quick gasp sounds as she recovers her breath from the exertion. She acknowledges her nature as a calamity and doesn't deny her past actions. She grows angry thinking about being disturbed while living quietly.
She is offended that they dared to order her execution.
She believes the fight would have been trivial if her core hadn't been targeted by a coward. She vows to kill the hero and the Emperor, crushing the entire imperial family. Shouting for the downfall of the hero and Emperor, she runs off as the men cheer for her.
A soft, light rustle sounds as the girl examines a bag of mana stones, while the elf asks if that is the entire haul.
Toddy explains that high-grade mana stones are becoming harder to find, but the young lady clearly doubts his desperate excuses.
She orders him to bring double next time, and while he agrees, he mentions a new concern.
Toddy is stunned that she has worries, while the girl considers killing the elf standing before her.
She reflects on how the news of the bandits' defeat will alert the assassins to the fact that she is still alive.
Toddy mentions the dark mages revere Lord Celis like a god, making their attempt on Lady Daphne's life quite suspicious.
A soft, light tap sounds as the girl notes the plot feels like a trending novel about a past calamity becoming an enemy to dark mages.
A soft, quick step sounds as the girl walks away from the collapsed elf, ordering him to arrange her transfer to the main building.
She explains the annex has too many barriers while the main building has none, making it easier to lure the assassins.
Toddy agrees that the barriers are suffocating, but worries that catching an assassin won't provide all the answers they need.
She looks on with a confident expression, claiming to know everything in the world.
She knows Lord Celis will soon fall and realizes she must find the Great Sage.
She tells the elf to search for information, despite his protests about having less time for research.
A soft, quick gasp sounds as she reveals she has already found him a disciple. The elf refuses to teach a human until she threatens to remove him from his medicine-making duties if the child succeeds.
He immediately agrees, excited to have his first disciple, and asking for the child's name. Lady Daphne identifies Vipera as the new student just as the day of the Marquise's ball arrives. Maids scramble to finish Lady Daphne's preparations for the ball, prioritizing her dress and accessories over everything else. A soft, quick gasp sounds as the servants struggle with the workload, wondering if they should have requested more help. Daphne asks if she can simply put in a half-hearted effort, shocking her lead maid with her complete lack of interest.
The maid becomes terrifyingly intense, insisting that Daphne must be the most radiant person at the entire event today.
A soft, light sigh sounds as Daphne finds the lengthy preparation process for her first outing in months completely exhausting. Elsewhere, a noblewoman instructs her young daughter on how to handle the upcoming meeting with the infamous young lady.
The mother quizzes the child on what her specific response should be when they finally encounter Daphne.
A soft, quick clap sounds as the girl enthusiastically repeats the instruction to stay far away to avoid getting hit.
The Marchioness remains anxious about the social risk despite the opportunity, while our daughter Brysa runs off to see friends.
News of Daphne subduing a group of bandits has turned her into the center of intense gossip among the gathered nobles. A narrator notes that half of the noble children in the capital have a painful history of being physically bullied by Daphne.
The Marchioness hopes for a peaceful event, noting that her daughter has never actually met the infamous young lady before.
Several ladies approach the Marchioness, eagerly inquiring about the exact time of Daphne's expected arrival. A soft, light clink sounds as the Marchioness explains that the long travel distance likely delayed the young lady's entrance.
One lady reveals she canceled all her other plans just to see if the rumors about the bandit defeat are true. A soft, sharp top sounds as a nobleman interrupts, asking if the ladies truly believe such far-fetched rumors.
The man in green dismisses the story, claiming the guildmaster must have greatly exaggerated the young lady's involvement.
He laughs at the idea, finding the notion of a small child defeating bandits to be completely ridiculous.
The ladies react with visible awkwardness as the nobleman continues to mock the validity of the recent news. A woman hides her face behind a fan, whispering that Daphne has always been known to have a very weak body. They gossip about how Daphne's incurable disease is the only reason her constant misbehavior and tantrums were ever tolerated. A soft, sharp tisk sounds as a dark smirk spreads across the nobleman's face while he prepares more insults. He argues it is logically impossible for a dying child to defeat bandits, suggesting her family is using her as a front.
He points out that there is currently no way to prove the truth behind the dramatic reports.
The Marchioness suggests that skills can be verified soon enough, just as a loud, sharp shout interrupts the conversation.
A formal announcement echoes through the hall, declaring that Lady Daphne has finally arrived at the ball.
Daphne enters the room, but her frail appearance leads many to believe the rumors were nothing more than empty boasting. The guests watch her closely, noting that she looks even more sickly and delicate than they had originally anticipated. Daphne scans the crowded room, finding the chaotic energy of the high society event to be quite overwhelming. She stands alone in the center of the hall, wondering why none of the other guests are attempting to approach her. Realizing her infamy is still a barrier, she decides to approach a group of children her own age to find clues. A soft, quick step sounds as Daphne walks forward, determined not to leave the party without gathering any useful information. She casually greets the group of young girls, unaware of the sheer terror her presence is causing them. The children are frozen in shock and fear as the most notorious bully in the capital suddenly stands before them. A soft, light hum sounds as Daphne offers a smile she believes is kind, but looks truly menacing. A heavy, tense silence falls over the corner of the room as the children wait for an inevitable outburst. A soft, sharp gasp sounds as Daphne wonders if they are all sick, while the girls imagine a Grim Reaper. The pink-haired girl Brysa frantically steps forward and begs Daphne not to be angry with them.
She apologizes for their lack of a response, explaining they were simply too overwhelmed by her sudden greeting.
Brysa continues to beg for forgiveness, clearly terrified that a single mistake will lead to a violent reaction. Daphne is confused by the desperate display, realizing that the children are genuinely begging for their lives. She assumes they are cowering because they recognize her as a superior being, which deeply pleases her ego. Brysa quickly agrees, praising Daphne's greatness in a desperate attempt to stay on her good side. The children immediately bring over a luxurious chair and offer Daphne drinks and cookies to keep her satisfied. Daphne reflects on how promising and well-behaved these young humans are, feeling quite content with the treatment. She decides she should brag about how everyone already knows and respects her greatness once she returns home. A loud, sharp thud sounds as a boy pushes Brysa aside, rudely demanding she get out of his way.
A soft, quick step sounds as a brown-haired boy approaches the seated Daphne and shouts her name in a challenge.
A soft, quick growl sounds as he declares he has been waiting for revenge since the day she broke his nose. Daphne casually eats a cookie while wondering who this boy is and if he is just another victim of her past karma. She considers a more important matter. A soft, quick groan sounds as Brysa winces on the floor while a voice asks where she is looking. Mark holds 2 wooden swords, suggesting they fight fair and square since she is also a swordsman. A soft, light chuckle sounds as Mark smirks condescendingly. Mark looms over the girl, insulting her as a hoodlum and a liar who lacks honor. High above the hall, a figure watches. Duke Brown looks down with interest, mentally praising the situation.
A soft, sharp tisk sounds as Duke Brown notes how desperate Duke Action must be to use such rumors.
Mark points his wooden sword at Daphne, demanding she pick up a weapon so he can show her.
A soft, quick slide sounds as Daphne kicks the fallen sword away, claiming she doesn't need it.
Mark charges forward, yelling for her not to cry when he hits her. A soft, quick swish sounds as Daphne effortlessly catches the wooden sword mid-swing. Mark is frozen in utter shock, shouting out in disbelief. A dark smirk spreads across her face.
A soft, quick slide sounds as Daphne lunges forward and grabs Mark by his collar.
She tells the boy he is 100 years too early to reach her. A soft, sharp thud sounds as Daphne slams Mark face first into the floor. Mark lies defeated on the ground, stuttering that this is impossible. Daphne looks down coldly, noting that pushing a young girl without apologizing is what is truly impossible.
Noblewomen whisper in shock that Daphne just took down the apprentice guardian in one move.
Duke Brown leans over the balcony railing, sweating as he questions his own eyes. Daphne walks toward the cowering girl. Brysa looks up in dazed confusion. Daphne stands over the child, looking weary.
Daphne offers her hand to help the girl up, receiving a stunned expression of gratitude. A soft, quick heartbeat sounds as Brysa blushes at the unexpected kindness.
Brysa finds her surprisingly warm and kind, while Daphne orders her to bring snacks because her energy is low. The pink-haired girl enthusiastically agrees to help. Daphne smirks to herself, feeling pride. She notes that moving even a little bit makes her get out of breath. A soft, light sigh sounds as Daphne leans over the balcony railing to recover her strength. She wonders when her body will improve. She notes it is slowly improving, but wants the process to go faster. She is suddenly interrupted by a presence. A man with long black hair greets her, addressing her by her past title, Lord Celis.
Angrily pointing a finger, she shouts that she has finally found the great sage.
A soft, light hum sounds as the man offers a gentle, knowing smile.
Daphne admits she knew he was there despite her attempts to pretend otherwise.
She demands to know how he predicted she would reincarnate into this specific body.
The great sage dismisses her demands, claiming he doesn't have time for long explanations.
He explains that maintaining illusion magic is difficult after being thrown to the opposite side of the continent.
He promises to briefly explain why Celis had to die and why she entered her current form.
Daphne clenches her fist in frustration, threatening him for being so evasive and playful.
A soft, quick clap sounds as the great sage prepares to vanish.
He warns her to be careful because the dark mages will soon make their move. Daphne repeats his warning about the mages.
A narrator notes that dark mages use their life force for death magic, making their numbers dwindle over time.
Daphne dismisses the threat as trivial, despite the persistent curse on her current body.
She asks if there is any way to recover her original dragon body.
The sage claims he must leave, while Daphne yells for him to answer her questions first.
Daphne yells for the great sage.
She trembles and laughs in fury. Recalling how often the great sage has toyed with her in past lives, Daphne decides to make him the primary target on her removal list. A sudden thunderous crash echoes through the air as Daphne vows to capture the sage with a binding artifact. Daphne turns sharply as a soft, quick step sounds, and she feels the ground vibrate with intense energy. She senses a chilling aura of death and wonders why such a dark presence has appeared at the ball. Daphne reacts with shock as she remembers the great sage's warning to be wary of dark mages. A massive explosion destroys the balcony and ceiling, sending smoke and debris everywhere while guests scream in terror.
A heavy, loud rumble sounds as guests panic and shout for everyone to evacuate the collapsing building. The Marchioness frantically calls for the children, demanding they be evacuated first before the structure fails. A soft, sharp thud sounds as the nobleman in green roughly pushes the Marchioness aside to flee for his own life.
He grabs a waiter by the chest, his face contorted with a selfish and desperate fear of dying.
The man in green demands to be guided out immediately while the waiter tries to keep everyone calm.
A sudden, sharp thud sounds as a rock strikes the man in green while he demands a secret exit. He clutches his head in pain and shock, screaming out in confusion at the sudden, violent impact.
Standing firm amidst the chaos, Daphne asks the man if he truly believes he is the only person who deserves to survive.
She berates him for his cowardice, pointing out that he ignored the cries to prioritize the safety of the children.
Daphne turns to the Marchioness and calls out to her as the woman huddles on the floor.
She tells the lady to take the child and leave slowly, assuring her that the building will not collapse just yet.
The Marquise stares up in silence, visibly moved and stunned by the young girl's incredible composure.
A soft, quick tap sounds as the woman flees with the children while Daphne runs in the opposite direction.
Daphne finds a crying child and notes that the aura of death is spreading from a specific source underground. A soft, light tap sounds as Daphne determines she must find the location of the explosion before the ballroom falls. A soft, quick sizzle sounds as the fire rapidly consumes the curtains and spreads throughout the grand chamber. Daphne reaches out to the frightened child on the floor and asks if she is capable of standing up. A soft, quick sniff sounds as Daphne senses a peculiar smell through the thick, black smoke.
The entire hall is engulfed in a fierce blaze while Daphne notes that the heat is starting to give her a headache.
A soft, quick slide sounds as Daphne hands the girl a handkerchief to cover her mouth and nose. A soft, quick cough sounds as Daphne reflects on how easily human children can be killed by smoke inhalation. She recalls memories of children playing peacefully, strengthening her resolve to ensure no more lives are lost. A heavy, tense squeeze sounds as Daphne clenches her fist and vows to get everyone out safely.
She yells at the nearby adults to take the child and escape, asserting that the weak must always be protected.
The Milan Count agrees immediately, taking the girl and promising to get her out of the fire quickly.
Standing alone in the flames, Daphne declares that her greatness will ensure there are 0 casualties today.
She looks around the burning hall and feels satisfied that she has successfully cleared the room of guests. A soft, quick cough sounds as the Milan Count urges Daphne to leave because the danger is now extreme. He offers his hand to her, begging for the young lady to escape the fire with him. Daphne studies him and realizes he is the honorable man who was helping the injured earlier in the chaos. She tells him he has passed her test, leaving the man bewildered by her strange and sudden evaluation. Daphne orders him to leave first, claiming she needs to look around the interior for just a bit longer. The nobleman points out that Daphne is also injured and seems unaware of her own bloody forehead. He reflects on how wrong they all were to slander such a courageous child as a hoodlum. The Milan Count vows to use his newspaper to spread the word of her honorable deeds to the entire capital. A heavy, sudden thud sounds as he grabs Daphne to carry her out, ignoring her protests to stay behind. A soft, quick swish sounds as he sprints through the doorway, claiming that no one else remains inside the building. Daphne shouts that she is fine and doesn't need to be carried, but the man refuses to let go. A soft, quick struggle sounds as Daphne insists she hasn't finished checking the area for more survivors. A soft, quick tap sounds as Daphne escapes his hold while he cries out in pain from her resistance. A soft, light tap sounds as Daphne runs back into the smoke while the nobleman calls her name in terror. A soft, sharp swish sounds as a blonde knight slashes through the darkness with a glowing blue blade. A blonde knight observes many fallen monsters. The monocled man notes these unidentified creatures are causing a massive commotion. These strange creatures appear unnaturally synthesized. The monocled man identifies them as chimeras. The blonde knight asks if these are forcefully synthesized monsters. He notes unauthorized specimens lead to execution if discovered. The blonde knight observes their lack of unified design. He identifies dark mages as the culprits. The monocled man complains about persistent madmen while the knight refuses further involvement. A soft, quick swish sounds as the knight shoulders his sword, tired of dark mages. He orders the monocled man to finish the investigation alone. The monocled man reflects on the knight's intense hatred for dark mages. He bows and accepts his dismissal from the position.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as the man notices a shocking change. A heavy, low thrum sounds as the knight senses a surge of death aura.
He realizes the dark mages are moving much faster than expected.
The monocled man suggests ignoring the terrorism to focus on their original monster orders.
Smoke rises in the distance toward the Finch residence.
A soft, quick swish sounds as the blonde knight sprints away toward Daphne's location.
He charges through the grass as his subordinates call after him.
Daphne runs through the Brevignachen.
She frantically calls out to find the missing child.
Daphne coughs through the thick smoke while searching for an exit.
A heavy, sharp crash sounds as she finds the child trapped under rubble.
Daphne demands to know why the girl is just sitting there.
She orders the girl to stand up so they can find an exit. Brysa explains her leg is trapped and she cannot move. Daphne prepares to lift the heavy debris on account of Gree.
A heavy, low grunt sounds as Daphne strains to lift the rocks.
A soft, quick slide sounds as the girl pulls her foot free.
Daphne asks if she can walk and notices the girl's concern.
She looks at her bloody hands and dismisses the injury.
Daphne tells the girl to prioritize her own recovery.
Brysa explains she stayed behind to ensure every other child evacuated first.
Daphne stares at the girl in silence. She smirks while praising the girl's actions as a proper subordinate.
Daphne offers her hand to the dazed child.
A soft, sharp gasp sounds as Daphne senses a new presence. She senses a terrifying aura of death nearby.
A soft, quick swish sounds as Daphne investigates behind a curtain.
She discovers a glowing object hidden away.
Brysa watches with growing confusion and fear. Daphne stares intently at the discovery. She identifies the object as a bomb that cannot be diffused.
She realizes it is powered by dark magic.
She envisions the guests being caught in the impending massive explosions.
Daphne determines she must handle the threat inside the building.
Brysa cries out in fear of dying.
Daphne confidently declares that her greatness will prevent their deaths.
She strikes a dramatic pose despite the chaos.
The narrative explains that the aura of calamity is fundamentally similar to the negative energy of death magic.
Daphne realizes her current body can absorb the dark magic bomb's aura like a special meal.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as Brysa reacts in shock to Daphne's dangerous plan to trigger the device.
Daphne points out an escape route for the girl through the flames, ignoring her frantic questions.
Vowing to stop the threat and increase her own magic power, Daphne prepares to act.
A heavy, tense squeeze sounds as Daphne tells the girl there is no time to explain and to prepare herself.
A soft, quick tap sounds as Daphne runs toward the fire while the girl warns her of the extreme danger. The child is stunned by Daphne's lack of hesitation in choosing self-sacrifice.
She watches in disbelief as Daphne leaps back into the inferno.
She reflects on how Daphne had come to save her when she was alone in the debris.
A loud, desperate cry sounds as the girl refuses to let Daphne go.
Daphne prepares to consume the magical energy of the bomb.
A massive explosion rocks the area while the onlookers outside scream in terror. Standing in the center of the vortex, Daphne begins absorbing the chaotic energy. She strains against the power as the girl calls out her name in fear. A soft, quick crawl sounds as Daphne notes the aura is unexpectedly strong and spreading faster than she can absorb it.
A soft, sharp grunt sounds as Daphne realizes her physical body is reaching its limit despite the potion.
A soft, quick tap sounds as she briefly considers releasing the energy but stops herself immediately.
Realizing that failure would kill everyone nearby, she looks toward the innocent guests gathered safely outside.
She reflects on her new identity and how the cycle of calamity has finally been broken. Determined to show kindness and save those she couldn't before, she refuses to remain a helpless being.
Her purple eye glows with intensity as she declares she is their only hope.
A heavy, low thrum sounds as Daphne orders the essence of death to be consumed by her power.
A soft, quick cough sounds as Daphne tastes blood, worrying the medicine is wearing off too soon.
A sudden, sharp swish sounds as the blonde knight charges through the magical storm with his glowing blade.
Daphne is stunned by the knight's sudden and powerful intervention.
A soft, quick slide sounds as Daphne's legs give out and she stumbles from exhaustion.
A heavy, sudden thud sounds as the knight catches her, and Daphne winces from the pain. The knight catches the collapsing girl as the magical light fades from the room.
The knight looks down at her, acknowledging that she had been working hard all alone.
Daphne drifts off as she looks up at the knight.
He studies her unconscious form with a somber expression.
Daphne smiles weakly before losing consciousness.
A system notification declares that Daphne Action's magic power has reached 50.
A soft, quick pat sounds as the Marchioness embraces Brysa, relieved that her daughter is safe.
A soft, quick sniff sounds as the Marchioness expresses her shock at having lost sight of her daughter.
Brysa explains she was trapped, but Daphne rescued her, leaving the Marchioness stunned.
The Milan Count adds that Daphne suddenly ran back inside to save her.
The Marchioness realizes the young girl went back into the fire specifically for Brysa.
A heavy, sudden thud sounds as Brysa grabs her mother's hand, confirming the story.
Brysa explains Daphne stopped the bomb with her own body to let her escape.
The guests are shocked to hear it was a magic bomb rather than an ordinary explosion.
The Milan Count reflects on the familiar and terrifying nature of the aura he felt earlier.
He concludes with shock that it was a dark magic bomb.
The Marchioness is horrified, hearing that such bombs absorb all nearby life force when they detonate.
A subordinate runs to the blonde knight asking for news about the unconscious girl he is carrying.
The monocled man expresses relief that she survived, admitting he feared another funeral was imminent.
The knight observes that her physical state is critical despite her survival.
A heavy, tense rumble sounds as the guests rush forward, suggesting holy magic might save her.
A soft, quick tap sounds as the monocled man agrees to bring a priestess to the mansion while they transport Daphne.
The monocled man looks away as the scarred blonde knight asks why they are still lingering.
The monocled man explains that they must provide a full report on the lady's condition before leaving.
The scarred knight stands over the monocled man, who is carefully cradling the unconscious child.
He lets out a soft, tired sigh while remarking that any observant person can see exactly what Daphne accomplished.
The monocled man notes the child successfully absorbed every ounce of death energy released by the bomb. A noble clenches his fist and shouts that Daphne Action is a true hero for her selfless sacrifice. The blonde knight looks on with a slightly startled and contemplative expression.
He brusquely orders everyone to stop wasting time and follow him immediately.
The gathered guests cheer and weep, vowing to always remember Lady Daphne as their savior. Though unconscious, Daphne's inner voice grumbles that she isn't dead yet and doesn't need people honoring her sacrifice. A sharp, sudden snap sounds as a foot crushes a dry branch in the dark forest.
A soft, rhythmic tap sounds as a hooded figure sighs while waiting in the shadows.
A heavy, low thrum sounds as several hooded dark mages kneel subserviently before their bandaged leader.
The leader demands to know if they have failed their critical mission.
The narrative explains how ancient dark mages killed the white dragon to erase the essence of life magic.
Survivors of the subsequent purge formed a secret organization called Spectre and spent 5 years plotting revenge.
The leader declares that today was meant to be their official declaration of vengeance against the Empire. He screams at his subordinates, asking how they could fail such a straightforward task. A soft, sharp grind sounds as the leader mashes his teeth in a fit of rage.
He reminds them of his orders to commit suicide upon failure, shocked to see them still alive.
The subordinates cry out that they do not fear death but returned only to deliver urgent news.
A soft, quick slide sounds as they grovel on the ground, begging for a moment to speak.
A soft, tired sigh sounds as the leader rubs his forehead and asks what they have to say.
The subordinate fearfully utters the name of Daphne Action. The leader reflects on the fact that the previous commander had already placed a curse on the hero's daughter.
He recalls ordering her death months ago and wonders how she could have survived to block their magic bomb. He looms over his subordinates, asking if they dared to give him a false report about her death.
He stands in silence, questioning how a child could possibly return to life and neutralize a dark magic weapon. He seethes that the daughter of that hero continues to ruin their grand designs. A heavy, tight squeeze sounds as the leader clenches his bandaged fist. He orders her immediate elimination, claiming it is only fitting for her to die alongside her mother.
A sharp, quick snap sounds as the leader prepares to unleash his dark power.
A sudden, sharp scream sounds as the failing subordinate is consumed by a violent explosion of magical light. The leader vows that the death aura will be reclaimed to fuel the power of Spectre once again.
A soft, quick crunch sounds as he steps forward, resolving to find the corpse of the calamity.
A blonde man sits on a sofa reading the latest news in a quiet, grand room.
The headlines scream about the dark magic terror in the capital and question the Guardian's competence. Duke Action notes that the simple return of the mages is not the most pressing issue.
A soft, quick tap sounds as he stands up, reflecting on the heavy criticism facing the Imperial Court.
A heavy, steady thud sounds as he walks toward his unconscious daughter, noting the Emperor's strange silence. He wonders if the Emperor is delaying his summons because Daphne has yet to wake up.
Daphne remains in a deep, peaceful sleep within her luxurious bedroom.
The Duke reflects on his dead wife and cursed daughter, wondering if the Emperor is finally showing him pity.
A soft, quick glance sounds as he checks the time, noting 3 full days have passed. He turns his attention toward a green-haired elf standing in the corner of the room. The man watches silently as his assistant prepares a medical concoction.
The elf reassures him that Daphne is recovering her vitality and will wake up soon.
He tells the Duke to let him know if it looks like she might die, prompting a look of shock.
Duke Action coldly remarks that he needs advance notice of her death to properly prepare the funeral.
The green-haired elf is stunned by the Duke's utter lack of emotion toward his own child.
The green-haired elf assistant crumbles a document in disgust, calling the subject human garbage before deciding to fetch more medicine.
Duke Action watches over his daughter.
A quiet day in the office. The mansion receives many guests.
Duke Action reflects on how a normal father would feel overwhelmed with worry in this moment. He looks down at his daughter, noting that the curse of the dark mage he defeated 5 years ago stripped him of his ability to feel concern.
He contemplates her possible death.
Rubbing his forehead, he admits it is chilling to feel nothing, even as the last living legacy of her mother lies in a critical state.
A sudden, sharp grind sounds as the Duke recalls Daphne screaming for him to kill her and save her mother instead.
The child's desperate cries to be left to die echo in his memory, a day when he felt no response to her bitter words.
He remembers looking at a sword. Empty of sorrow or guilt, he watched the child break down in the grand hall. A sudden, sharp slash sounds as he reflects on his past attempt to die by a flimsy blade, which left him with only a scar.
Daphne jolts awake in shock.
Still groggy, Daphne remarks on her unlucky dream before realizing her father is standing right there.
A sudden, sharp crackle sounds as Daphne grumbles that waking up to the hero's face is even worse than her nightmare.
Duke Action asks what she meant. Daphne turns away in silence.
Daphne declares her mood is ruined while her father stands by with a stunned, twitchy expression.
The Duke hides his face.
The Duke tries to process her hostility while Daphne shouts for him to leave the room immediately.
A soft, quick slide sounds as Daphne reaches for a magic stone, noting her body is still incredibly weak.
Frustrated by her physical limitations, she struggles to crawl toward the artifact on the floor.
Holding the stone, she calculates that her power has reached 50, allowing her to cast small spells despite her severe exhaustion.
Daphne prepares to consume the stone. She swallows the bitter gem to boost her recovery, lying back as she waits for the energy to manifest.
A soft, quick tap sounds as the maid peeks into the room, delighted to see the young lady finally awake.
Anna presents a tray of fresh sandwiches, and Daphne's eyes widen with hunger.
Daphne eagerly takes a sandwich while Anna offers to wash her hands before she eats.
A soft, quick rub sounds as the maid checks on her, and Daphne reassures her that she feels much better.
Anna gazes at her with a gentle smile, worrying that she has lost too much weight during her recovery.
Daphne reaches for another snack, dismissing the concerns as long as the immediate crisis is settled.
Anna defends the young lady's heroic actions, insisting that everyone now knows how amazing she is.
She points to a massive pile of thank you letters sent by the families Daphne saved during the explosion.
Anna notes that the social climate has changed entirely, as people who once ignored the lady are now desperate for her company. The maid expresses her joy that people are finally beginning to understand the kindness in the lady's heart.
Anna beams with genuine hide.
Daphne looks on and forwards.
Anna playfully scolds her colleague, reminding everyone that the lady's health must be their top priority now.
Daphne studies the piles now.
A soft, quick rustle sounds as Daphne reads letters from parents, thanking her for saving their children and vowing to never forget her.
A tiny, soft smile appears.
The desk is covered in letters. Floating in a void, Daphne wonders if this reciprocated goodwill is what true joy feels like, reflecting on her path to severing a centuries-old cycle.
A soft, quick giggle sounds as Daphne realizes the people she saved no longer fear her, and their happiness helps mask her painful memories.
Anna suggests returning to the annex now that the doctor has cleared her for light movement.
Anna offers a warm glass of milk while explaining that they have already prepared her room for her return.
Daphne pauses mid-sip, insisting that she needs to stay in the main house a little longer.
Daphne sports a milk mustache.
A sudden sharp swish sounds as a dark shadow slithers across the moonlit floor.
A soft, dark shadow slithers across the floor toward the sleeping child's bed. The hooded assassin watches the sleeping Daphne and remarks that she really is alive. He notes that he clearly confirmed her heart had stopped and questions how her survival is possible.
He resolves to kill her this time, noting that hero action was called to the palace today and reflecting on the Duke's status as the Empire's greatest swordmaster with sensory abilities capable of hearing rustling leaves from 100 meters away, which makes the residence the ultimate security, despite the annex's strong barrier.
He recalls how he previously waited for Daphne to enter the main building, certain that if he misses this opportunity, there won't be another. A sudden sharp whoosh sounds as the assassin reaches out with a dark magical claw, shouting for the child to die.
Daphne remains deeply asleep as the dark magic approaches.
A sudden sharp snap sounds as the assassin is shocked to find himself suddenly snared by purple energy, shouting for the magic to bind her instead.
A soft, quick slide sounds as Daphne stands on the bed and tells the assassin he is a fool, explaining that this is how magic is actually used, while the hooded man asks in terror what is happening.
A heavy, low thrum sounds as Daphne stands with glowing green eyes and a dark aura, telling the man she is teaching him and to watch and learn.
Bound in magical coils, the assassin thinks it's impossible for an ordinary child to use dark magic and wonders if it's a trick, a trap set by the hero, or if she was hiding her abilities, even questioning if her rolling eyes mean her head is too far gone.
A sudden, heavy thud sounds as the man is slammed to the floor, and Daphne commends his attempt to gather information even while pinned.
Daphne leans in and asks what it matters since he is about to die.
Daphne winks playfully and remarks that it's a shame he cannot return to his hideout to tell them about her.
A sudden, sharp flare sounds as the assassin calls her arrogant and unleashes a violent burst of dark magic.
A soft, quick hiss sounds as the assassin shouts for her to disappear, unleashing an instant death spell designed to make everything touched instantly crumble and vanish.
A sudden, sharp crackle sounds as the magic shatters against Daphne's aura, and the girl remarks how ticklish it feels, telling him his magic is pathetic and that he is 100 years too early to face her, while the man asks how her magic shattered his own.
Daphne reflects that while dark magic and the calamity's aura of death are similar, hers is clearly the superior version, making countering his spell child's play.
A sudden heavy thud sounds as the man collapses, and Daphne demands to know where he is going, while he internally resolves to report her power to the commander, believing his comrades will sense his aura if he dies.
The man resolves to die for Spectre after at least informing them of her power, but Daphne sighs that he never changes and how lightly he regards his own life.
A sudden, sharp pop sounds as Daphne releases a surge of dark energy into the man.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as the assassin realizes the aura of death is returning to him, and Daphne cryptically states that for her, death is an inevitable causality.
A sudden, sharp snap sounds as Daphne grabs his collar and declares she is a great dragon and an evil calamity, claiming his life and explaining all death is possible only through her.
Daphne looms over him with glowing eyes and demands that he tell her everything. The narrative introduces the secret organization known as Spectre.
The text explains that dark mages formed Spectre to dominate the world with death energy, having already killed their archenemy, the hero, and now aiming to defeat the dragon and steal the fragments of God.
Daphne stands alone in her sunlit room and repeats the phrase about dominating the world. Looking out the window, she notes that mere humans are trying to achieve something even gods couldn't, concluding they lack proper self-awareness.
She wonders if their belief makes them more dangerous, as that conviction is what makes things possible, acknowledging it was those same mages who killed the white dragon.
Daphne turns back toward the defeated man on the floor.
She realizes the mages tried to kill her to retrieve the death aura before her blood ability could manifest.
She concludes that because they are trying to recover power from her, Spectre doesn't have its full strength yet, giving her some time.
She reflects that she can never escape them as long as she is in this body and might struggle against a surprise attack with her current power.
A sudden sharp flare sounds as Daphne holds a dark sphere of magic and resolves to get stronger.
A sudden, heavy bang sounds as Toddy, the elf assistant, bursts into the room shouting for Lady Daphne while she calculates how becoming a transcendent will allow her to handle the hero, the emperor, and the Spectre mages.
Toddy excitedly says he ran there like crazy, and Daphne lets out a sharp, sudden scream, while Toddy warns her she will wake the entire mansion.
Toddy whispers in horror about the grotesque corpse on the floor, but Daphne explains he isn't dead yet and simply can't die here.
A soft, quick rustle sounds as Tati inspects the man, noting how drained he looks and asking if she left a single drop of energy.
Toddy kneels and jokes that anyone would think she's a vampire, but he can tell this is the work of the great Lady Daphne.
A sudden, sharp swish sounds as Daphne looks at her hand and asks if this is the assassin who killed her original body.
The grand chandelier hangs above as Daphne reflects on what she has learned so far.
The clock ticks as she thinks about how foolish humans are dreaming up impossible fantasies again.
A soft, tired sigh sounds as Toddy asks what kind of world domination mere humans are dreaming of. Daphne looks down and notes that the human who killed the white dragon could die at any time.
A soft, quick scratch sounds as Toddy rubs his head and Daphne warns him that he should be careful.
Daphne shouts that she won't be careful because she is strong, and Tati remarks that must be nice.
A soft, quick oof sounds as Daphne struggles to climb back onto her bed.
Daphne orders Toddy to take the man far away and dispose of him, leaving no trace, as his suicide attempt suggests he has ways to contact his allies.
Toddy determinedly reflects that as her servant, he should be able to handle burial, but Daphne tells him to just take the man out and leave him somewhere.
Daphne sits on her bed and explains she doesn't need to kill him because erasing his memory is sufficient. Toddy begs for death while Daphne reminds him of her non-killing principle, but the elf assistant queries if the man is safe as long as he remains alive. Daphne expresses her hope that the elf will maintain his mercy for a lifetime while he prepares a teleportation circle for the prisoner. Toddy acknowledges her command with a sudden realization.
After Daphne dismisses the elf to investigate a sighting in the desert, her attention is taken by a sudden, quick sigh sounding from the exhausted child in the bed.
Tati notes the distance of the task, prompting Daphne to insist he depart immediately as she previously ordered. Seeking a final word of praise, Tati is quickly ushered out by Daphne before he can annoy her further with his lingering. The narrative shifts to the Axion Knights, a group that has historically lacked fame or recognition in the Empire. Because their master is the Empire's greatest warrior, the knights under the hero are often overlooked and denied formal titles or attention. Public opinion dismisses them as a mediocre crew who rely entirely on the hero to solve every problem. Unable to withstand the constant ridicule, more than half of the knights abandoned the order within their first year of service. The few who remained eventually lost their drive as the world continued to ignore their efforts and existence.
Training became a hollow routine as the men simply went through the motions without any real passion or motivation.
Everything changed when the young lady began showing an indomitable and fierce spirit during her own practice. Even in the face of extreme illness, her relentless dedication to training never wavered as she pushed her limits daily. Her passionate vows to succeed the Duke deeply moved the silver-haired knight who watched her closely. Lloyd reflects on her recent heroism in stopping a dark magic threat while he begins his own morning stretches in the yard. Fired up by her example, the knight resolves that the men must work harder to provide her with a worthy surprise upon her return. His thoughts are interrupted by someone approaching the training grounds in the early light.
Arius appears and questions why the silver-haired knight has started his routine so early in the morning.
Gripping his practice sword, the young master admits he found himself unable to sleep and sought the field. Arius decides to join the training session since he is already awake and prepared. Lloyd studies the boy's focused expression with a sense of quiet observation and concern.
He wonders aloud if the young master is feeling a sense of deep frustration lately. A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as Arius reacts with shock to the knight's unexpected and insightful question.
Lloyd clarifies that seeing Daphne's recent accomplishments might have stirred some complex feelings of inadequacy.
Arius remains silent for a moment as he processes the knight's blunt assessment of his state of mind.
He loudly denies any jealousy, insisting that he was only trying to find a way to properly praise his sister's actions.
Despite the knight's suggestion that jealousy is a natural motivator, Arius firmly rejects the idea as he crosses his arms.
A moment of quiet resolve settles over the young master as he stares forward.
Lloyd offers a supportive gesture, placing his hands on the boy's shoulders to steady him.
Arius reacts to the personal touch with a slight, embarrassed flush on his face.
He softly confirms his stance with a brief reply.
Arius suggests that simple recognition is all he requires for his efforts.
A soft, quick pat sounds as Lloyd comforts the boy with a reassuring touch on his back. Clenching his fist, Arius internally acknowledges that while he may be behind Daphne now, he has no intention of staying there. He envisions a future where he stands confidently as a powerful warrior beside his father. His eyes shine with a newfound determination to become a truly capable and confident knight. Lloyd announces he is going for a run and invites the young master to warm up so they can practice together later. A soft, quick patter sounds as Arius dashes off with renewed energy to begin his morning workout.
The training grounds stand ready as the sun rises higher over the mansion's walls.
Daphne arrives at the field and calls out to Lloyd, her voice carrying across the yard.
The knight turns around, surprised to see the young lady up and moving so soon after her collapse. Concerned for her recovery, Lloyd asks if she came to train, but she explains she only has a specific question. Daphne gazes at the exhausted knights littering the floor and asks why they are behaving so foolishly by overexerting themselves. Lloyd explains the increased training intensity is a response to her hard work, though Daphne remains unimpressed by the logic. He insists that their collective efforts are an investment in the future strength of the house. When he mentions that Arius is training with them, Daphne looks around the yard with a doubtful expression. She points to the trembling, exhausted figure of the boy and compares him to a skeleton barely clinging to life after his drills. Lloyd defends Arius, noting that he pursued every difficult drill with an incredible fire in his eyes that matched her own. As Daphne expresses her approval, Lloyd confidently asks her to look forward to the formidable swordsman the boy will become. Lloyd asks if it wouldn't be better to give such praise to the hero instead. A soft, quick scratch sounds as Toddy nervously notes that even with praise, the hero won't enjoy it, admitting he felt a sudden need to report to Lady Daphne. Shifting focus, Lloyd asks if she had a specific question, but Daphne admits she has already forgotten it. she suddenly recalls her inquiry about where she can find the dark mages.
Lloyd's expression darkens as he flatly tells her that she won't be finding them.
Daphne declares she intends to break them, but Lloyd insists she only survived by luck and warns that the next encounter is unpredictable, leaving her stunned by his assessment. A sudden, sharp crackle sounds as Daphne's eyes glow with a menacing light while she repeats the word lucky.
A heavy, sudden roar sounds as Daphne erupts into a dark, fiery aura, challenging Lloyd to test whether it was luck or skill with their own bodies, while the knight begs her to calm down.
A sudden, sharp snap sounds as Daphne grabs Lloyd's collar and declares their duel finished while the knight wails that she can't do this. A sudden, high shout sounds as a girl with long green hair calls out Daphne's name.
A soft, quick patter sounds as Vipera rushes forward, frantically asking why Daphne is outside when her body hasn't fully recovered yet.
Daphne looks on in surprise as she recognizes her green-haired sister.
Arya suddenly appears and loudly demands to know why Vipera is present.
Ignoring the knight on the floor, Arius continues to shout his confusion at the back of the green-haired girl's head.
The red-haired boy stares in utter bewilderment.
A soft, quick tap sounds as Vipera tries to speak, but Arius insists that his confusion is the main problem.
Vipera continues to lecture Daphne on self-care while Arius asks aloud if he is suddenly invisible, noting it has been 2 years since they last interacted. A soft, quick rustle sounds as Vipera reaches into her bag, announcing she has brought some potions.
A sudden bright shimmer sounds as Vipera holds out a glowing purple bottle, asking Daphne if she would like to try it.
She clarifies that she hasn't learned this from Toddy but has been crafting them on her own from the start.
A soft, quick splash sounds as Daphne takes the bottle and says she will take a look.
Daphne studies the liquid closely with a sharp, discerning gaze.
A soft, quick chuckle sounds as Daphne realizes the girl will be quite useful after a few years of training, while Vipera misinterprets her sinister smile as a sign of approval.
A soft, quick squeeze sounds as Vipera clasps her hands together, relieved that her work wasn't dismissed as trash this time. Vipera reflects on past torments and concludes that Daphne must have been the one who arranged for the elf to take her as a disciple.
The scene shifts as an enthusiastic promise to teach her is made.
In a memory, Tati explains he hates humans but is willing to train Vipera so he can eventually escape his service.
A sudden, sharp squeeze sounds as the elf grabs her hands and urges her to work hard, a moment Vipera found rather peculiar.
She wonders if sending the elf was meant as a gesture of reconciliation, leading her to consider forgiving her sister.
Daphne stands quietly in the soft light.
A gentle touch brushes against her hair in a moment of unexpected tenderness. A soft, quick breath sounds as Vipera steadies her resolve. A sudden, heavy grab sounds as Vipera thrusts her bag forward, telling Daphne to take the rest of her supplies.
A soft, quick babble sounds as Vipera starts rambling while Daphne watches with a blank expression.
Vipera makes a V sign with a bright, energetic smile.
Vipera suddenly apologizes for her past behavior and asks if Daphne wants to take back the gift.
A soft, quick sniffle sounds as Vipera tearfully thanks her sister, promising to use the gift well.
A sudden loud shout sounds as Arius declares he doesn't understand the situation and demands not to be ignored.
A heavy, sudden squeeze sounds as Arius grabs the heads of both girls in his frustration. Arius questions how they became so close when Vipera used to hide in her room, causing the girl to blush and stammer, while Daphne wonders if she should be acting shy.
A soft, quick sparkle sounds as Vipera happily explains that Daphne listened to her and gave her a gift she could never have obtained before.
Arius remains speechless as he takes in his sister's interaction.
Vipera mentions she was locked in her room for 2 years after being tormented, but Daphne tells her to keep the explanation short, leading to a happy laugh from the green-haired girl. A soft, quick tingle sounds as Arius realizes this finally feels like a normal family. A soft, quick swish sounds as Arius inspects the potion, asking when she started making medicine and if it's actually legitimate.
Vipera insists it is effective because she personally tested it on her own body.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as Vipera details her horrifying test methods, including cutting herself, exercising to exhaustion, and draining her magic, leaving Arius and Daphne pale with shock.
A soft, quick chuckle sounds as Vipera asks if her explanation was helpful.
A heavy, sudden top sounds as Arius covers his eyes, lamenting that while he knew she liked alchemy, he didn't realize she was this obsessed with testing side effects.
Arius looks at his sister and confirms they plan to continue this routine daily.
The red-haired boy explains that experiments will cause daily exhaustion and injury, but the young lady remains skeptical.
Vipera and the other knights lie on the ground in total exhaustion while discussing the dangers of being used as test subjects for new experiments.
The red-haired boy smiles warmly while expressing his happiness that the three of them are finally back together. The green-haired girl blushes and admits that while she wishes their brother were there, she is content with their current situation.
A moment of genuine warmth as the three children share a close group hug. A close-up reveals the girl's striking green eyes as she experiences a rare moment of childhood peace. The three young friends walk together through a vast, shimmering landscape. The blonde man with the facial scars stands alone with a heavy and brooding expression. The brown-haired secretary enters the room and bluntly asks if His Excellency is slacking off.
Balancing a massive stack of documents, the secretary complains about the unfairness of his heavy workload compared to those who only observe the world.
The blonde man calmly clarifies that he is deep in thought rather than avoiding his responsibilities.
The secretary urges him to finish thinking quickly because a reply must be sent to the imperial court immediately.
A formal inquiry arrives asking if the noble will participate in the upcoming Dark Mage subjugation.
The man stares ahead with intense and serious resolve.
Narration details the terror in the capital and the surviving dark mages that have thrown the entire empire into a state of confusion.
The emperor issues a decree promising magnificent rewards to any nobles who achieve merit in quelling the unrest.
A formal acknowledgement is given in the opulent hallways of the palace. Standing on the palace stairs, the emperor tells the knight that he is not required to participate if he does not wish to.
The emperor expresses deep concern, noting that the man has already lost so much and shouldn't be burdened further. Reflecting on the memory of Elise, the man considers if seeking vengeance against the mages is even possible.
He clenches his hand while comparing the dark mages to persistent weeds that cannot be fully destroyed even if the stems are burned. Overwhelmed by the past, the man questions if he must endure such a tiresome battle once again.
The secretary watches from a distance, privately thinking that he could never endure the burdens that his master carries. He continues his inner monologue, realizing that if the man retreats now, he will never be able to move forward again.
A sudden, loud bang sounds as Daphne slams the doors open and shouts for the hero.
The secretary is visibly startled by the young girl's sudden and aggressive arrival in the study.
Daphne stands tall and announces that she has come to find the hero because she is curious about something.
The man asks how she found him, and the girl mocks him for projecting such a blatant and annoying aura.
He is genuinely impressed that she sensed his presence even though he was intentionally containing his energy within the mansion.
The secretary is shocked to see his master laugh, wondering if he might have eaten something bad.
The blonde man leans forward and asks exactly what it is that the girl wants to know.
The room grows tense as Daphne mentions her interest in the dark mages.
With an intense look, she demands to be told exactly where the mages are located. Daphne pumps her fist with determined energy. A sudden soft gasp sounds as the girl internally panics, realizing she can't reveal her true goal of absorbing death aura. Scrambling for an excuse, Daphne loudly declares that her motive is revenge.
A sudden, sharp clap sounds as the secretary brings his hands together in a gesture of deep admiration.
Daphne is taken aback by the man's overly enthusiastic and sudden reaction to her claim. Deeply moved, the secretary praises her noble spirit for planning revenge the moment her body recovered from injury.
The girl is fuming internally, disgusted by being called the daughter of a hero she despises.
The man asks if revenge is truly her goal, while the secretary confirms it with absolute certainty. Daphne is frustrated by the misunderstanding, but realizes that playing along is the only way to get an answer. A sudden, firm thud sounds as the girl clenches her fist and insists that she is seeking revenge. The blonde man bluntly tells her that seeking revenge is impossible given her current level of skill. He mentions hearing about her talent in swordsmanship, which causes Daphne to tremble with suppressed rage. The man admits he initially ignored her training because he expected her to die, but acknowledges her talent now that her will to live has returned.
He observes that her eyes are no longer those of someone waiting for death to claim them.
Reaching out a hand, the man offers to teach the young girl himself.
Daphne immediately rejects the offer, questioning why she would ever want to learn from someone like him.
The girl turns to leave, grumbling about wasting her time while the secretary tries to stop her departure.
A sudden sharp tap sounds as Lloyd reacts with shock to his first rejection, calling out for a moment's pause.
Lloyd narrows his eyes with resolve.
A voice notes his failure, prompting Arias to insist on better performance from the beginning, leaving the other questioning the blunt assessment.
A heavy, sudden crunch sounds as Daphne stabs her fruit with focused intensity. Fuming with indignation, Daphne questions the audacity of the offer and mocks the overwhelming arrogance behind it. She explains her request to move to the annex to avoid unwanted scrutiny and mana interference from the hero's overwhelming presence. She reflects on keeping her draconic nature hidden while remaining wary of the ghost-like man's movements. A soft, quick chuckle sounds as Daphne admits her dislike for the hero while secretly enjoying his rigid discomfort. Daphne's green eyes narrow with calculation. She observes the suffocating atmosphere of the annex, noting the presence of at least 5 magical barriers. As she wonders if the annex hides great wealth given the immense magic used to secure it, Anne arrives with more tea.
Daphne asks if the maid knows anything, but Anne remains oblivious and asks for clarification.
A soft, quick splash sounds as Daphne questions why the security is concentrated specifically on the annex.
Anne brightly explains that the security measures were implemented specifically for Daphne's sake.
A soft, quick splash sounds as Daphne spills her tea in her utter disbelief.
Anne notes that the mages are suffering to maintain the barrier due to reports of Daphne's frail health. She mentions hearing that the Imperial mages were commissioned to protect her from potential threats. Skeptical, Daphne recalls how the hero usually only shows interest when her life is in danger.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as Daphne wonders if the hero actually harbors positive feelings for her.
Anne suggests their lord is simply poor at expressing himself, though Daphne remains cynical about being discarded if things go wrong.
A beautiful bouquet of flowers blooms.
She ponders her true identity and her place in this world.
She admits a hidden desire for such recognition. A heavy shadow falls as she internally insists that she is not the true Daphne.
Lloyd acknowledges his orders with a firm response to his superior.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as Arius offers to teach swordsmanship, leaving Lloyd completely stunned.
A sudden, high shout sounds as Lloyd reels from the possibility of receiving direct instruction from the master.
Lloyd bows in gratitude, ignoring Arius's attempt to clarify as he enthusiastically rallies the other knights to hear the news. The training grounds erupt with excitement as the knights celebrate the once-in-a-lifetime chance to learn from the swordmaster.
Arius struggles to explain that he only intended to focus on Daphne, finding it difficult to interact with the others.
A soft, quick sniffle sounds as the knights weep with joy, while Arius laments his inability to refuse the misunderstanding.
Lloyd notes the extreme and unusual emotional reaction of the knights.
Daphne watches the scene with distaste, unable to understand why her previous self would have gone to such lengths.
Arius notices the hero's presence and acknowledges him.
A soft, quick rustle sounds as Daphne steps forward to announce she is offering a grand opportunity. Pointing her finger with authority, Daphne demands that he prove his ability to teach her correctly.
Arius stands frozen in sheer disbelief. A soft, quick rumble sounds as the two travel together in silence within the carriage.
Daphne stares out the window, internally questioning what anyone could do even if they discovered her true nature as a dragon.
A bright light surrounds Arius as he stands tall.
A soft, quick sigh sounds as she identifies as Celis the Calamity, feeling as though she is stealing the affection meant for the real Daphne.
Dismissing her guilt, Daphne resolves to focus on exploiting his strength for her own ends.
She wonders where he is leading her as they travel through the woods.
A soft, quick creak sounds as Daphne notes the path they are taking feels strangely familiar.
Arius announces their imminent arrival while warning her of the immense power behind his sword techniques.
He explains that the danger of his skills forced him to seek out a secluded training spot.
A soft, quick crunch sounds as they step onto the ground.
Arius presents the modest wooden cabin that serves as his private training grounds. A soft, quick rustle sounds as she takes in the dusty, cobweb-filled interior of the shelter.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as Daphne realizes the significance of the location.
A memory from Daphne's past begins. She recalls a voice asking her to swing a sword, noting that such weapons hold no significance for a dragon.
A sudden, sharp croak sounds as a blade enters the frame. The memory continues with a man's voice warning the reptile to worry about her own safety as he prepares to teach her the true meaning of a sword.
An old man with a gray beard smiles warmly while extending a sword.
A quiet stillness surrounds the wooden cabin. Text identifies the owner of the structure. Standing together outside, Daphne asks Arius why he has brought her to this specific location. Her thoughts reveal that he was the only being who ever truly accepted her draconic nature. Daphne reflects on her inability to even ask for his name in the past due to her own pride as they stand before the familiar sight. A soft, quick swish sounds as two figures spar in the distance. The memory shows the bearded old man training a younger, dark-haired student in a sun-dappled clearing. The dark-haired student pauses his training to snack on some jerky while being told to remember these lessons for the rest of his life. Focused more on his stomach than the lecture, the young boy demands more jerky since his movement has made him hungry. Returning to the present, Daphne breaks the silence by asking Arius for the name of the teacher who trained him. Arius grips his scabbard with a look of intense contemplation. A soft, quick sparkle sounds as light reflects off the ornate gem embedded in the sword's hilt.
Arius and Daphne observe the cabin together, noticing the portrait of the master visible through the window.
The scene shifts to a vast desert where a green-haired elf named Seo is being chased by a black-haired woman. The woman playfully refuses to stop running despite Seo's frantic demands.
Seo yells that he finally found the great sage running a market stall and fears a crazy dragon will kill him if she escapes again.
The woman offers to stop only if Seo promises not to lay a hand on her, finding amusement in the elf's exhaustion.
Seo quickly agrees to the deal. The woman stops with a cheerful expression. Catching his breath, Seo questions her incredible stamina and wonders if she is truly human. She merely notes the elf's compliment in her diary as a great honor.
The woman winks while suggesting that her notes might eventually help people in the future. She reflects on the impressive century-long lifespan of the sage before her. Seo collapses into the sand in his fatigue. Seo introduces himself properly and asks if the woman is acquainted with Sullus. She confirms that she is. Her gaze narrows as Seo explains that he knows both why she came and why she chose to run away.
Seo asks why Silas refuses to meet him. The woman shrugs, explaining that watching the dragon suffer from such a close distance would only cause her to be caught up in the trouble as well.
Seo's eyes glow with a sudden vengeful desire to see the dragon suffer. Seo wishes for the dragon to be trapped for centuries, while the black-haired woman silently questions if the elf is actually a healer who lacks offensive magic. Seo insists that he must take her back with him, pleading for his own survival. She gazes with morbid curiosity, wondering if she could record an elf's death in her diary. Seo is appalled by the suggestion. Seo grabs her cloak, shouting that they are both in danger and that the dragon will inevitably find them no matter where they hide. A soft, quick tug sounds as the woman adjusts her collar. She admits she wants to go for his sake, but cannot yet because causality still binds her. She offers a gentle, reassuring smile to the frustrated elf. Seo demands a promise carved with a magical seal to ensure the traveler's cooperation. The narration notes that Seo felt pity for the traveler's desperate situation. Back at the training grounds, Arius announces that he has finished preparing the area.
Arius looks at Daphne with a serious expression.
Daphne remains silent, her mind elsewhere as she processes the memories of the location. Guilt washes over Daphne as she reflects on stealing the body of her friend's descendant and her past attempts to kill Arius. She internally labels herself as trash. Arius lets out a soft laugh. Daphne's eyes widen as she reminds herself that he is the grandson of her only friend.
Stealing her resolve, Daphne stares intensely at Arius and tells him to listen carefully to what she is about to say.
Daphne suddenly shouts for him to take good care of her from now on.
A sudden sharp shake sounds as Daphne trembles with embarrassment while clutching Arius's leg. He looks down at her in confusion. A sudden heavy grab sounds as Daphne seizes his arm, demanding to know why he isn't answering her.
Arius lifts the small girl into his arms and they share a moment of tense eye contact.
Daphne struggles to suppress her irritation while being held.
Arius asks why she has suddenly become so docile if she isn't feeling ill. Daphne internally fumes, reminding herself of his lineage.
Daphne demands to be put down so she can watch him demonstrate his sword skills.
A soft, quick swish sounds as Daphne promises to watch his movements and copy them exactly.
Arius's aura becomes cold and oppressive as he asks if she takes the art of swordsmanship lightly. Daphne feels a chill run down her spine. Arius holds her close and details a grueling training routine designed to push her to the absolute limit of her physical endurance.
He points to a primitive weight made of rocks and a wooden pole, describing endurance training that involves climbing the nearby hill repeatedly.
Arius concludes by announcing that he is confiscating her wooden sword until she has completed his training.
Arius presents a crude training device, while Daphne internally critiques the lack of evolution in instructional methods.
A sudden, sharp snap sounds as Daphne vents her frustration at the excessive weight, while Arius mocks her for being unable to lift it.
She reflects on the unique blessing of receiving instruction from two distinct generations of masters. Daphne's determination flares as she sets a goal to master the sword within 10 days.
She vows to follow through with her training until the very end.
Her eyes glow with a manic intensity as she laughs at the challenge.
Within a lavish office, a dark-haired man paces restlessly while a companion watches.
A sudden heavy slam sounds as the dark-haired man strikes his desk in a fit of rage.
The Count seethes over reports of Daphne's recovery and the public celebration of her as a hero.
He dismisses the newspaper accounts as ridiculous stories, refusing to believe the hoodlum saved anyone. A sudden realization strikes the Count as he considers a hidden motive.
He suspects the Grand Duke is using the girl's fame to influence public opinion regarding the family succession. The Count rages against what he perceives as a manipulative scheme by his rival. A formal portrait confirms that Daphne is currently the sole official heir to the Grand Duke's house. He recalls a more hopeful time when he believed his own son would succeed because Daphne was expected to die.
A soft, quick crunch sounds as he crumples the newspaper in his hand.
A soft, quick thud sounds as the Count paces, desperately seeking a way to eliminate his rivals.
An orange-haired man named Domit steps forward, confidently offering a solution to the Count's predicament.
The Count urgently asks if there is a way to overcome their current disadvantage.
Domit reassures him that he can solve any problem, then mentions the recent shortage of mana stones.
A memory of a bandit attack on a merchant caravan illustrates the theft of the valuable stones. Domit suggests sending Daphne to join the upcoming subjugation force as a solution. A soft, quick swish sounds as Domit smiles chillingly, his yellow eyes glowing with malice.
The Count recoils, clarifying that he wants Daphne dead but lacks the desire to be directly responsible.
Domit explains they will use the girl's reputation as a hero to justify her placement in the dangerous mission.
He insists they only need to ensure her participation to set their plan in motion.
The Count remains skeptical about how long such a ruse can last.
Domit argues that they can simply wait for her true nature to be revealed under the pressure of battle.
The dark-haired man worries about the possibility of the Grand Duke refusing the arrangement.
Domit plans to ruin her reputation with rumors of fraudulence if she is kept away from the conflict.
The Count ponders the question of what kind of hero would avoid the call to action. Laughing together, they agree to implement the scheme immediately to undermine the Grand Duke's position.
A soft, quick rustle sounds as Domit bows politely, reassuring the Count of their success. An oppressive darkness swirls as Domit resolves to ruin Daphne's future.
Training shifts back to the mansion's grounds due to the dangers of the surrounding forest.
Arius announces that carrying rocks will be substituted with squats to accommodate the new location.
A sudden sharp groan sounds as Daphne struggles to lift the rock-weighted pole. A sudden heavy crash sounds as the weights fall to the ground after 30 grueling minutes. Daphne lies exhausted on the ground, cursing the intensity of the training methods. Her pride is wounded, but she resolves to overcome her master in their next session.
Daphne reminds herself that while she will spare Arius for his lineage, she refuses to lose to him.
A soft, quick pop sounds as she uncorks a small vial.
Holding up a stamina healing potion, Daphne rages against the hero's unreasonable demands.
A sudden, quick gulp sounds as Daphne drinks the potion while a voice calls out to her. A red-haired boy approaches and asks if she is still training.
He asks if his father is forcing her to endure such a punishing schedule.
The boy watches her silently as the sun begins to set. A soft, quick huff sounds as Daphne takes offense at being perceived as weak, prompting an immediate apology from the boy.
She dismisses his concern, asserting that she will do whatever is necessary to gain power.
The red-haired boy tilts his head, questioning what goal motivates her to push herself so hard. Daphne's determination flares as she vows to get strong enough to punch the hero in the face. Arius questions where she got the drawing tools, while Daphne presents her crude illustration of her violent goal.
Within his study, the Grand Duke notes that several families have received a royal summons.
His expression hardens as he confirms the Finch Marquis house is among those called to the capital. Poland explains that the king is assembling a specialized force to subjugate a dangerous dark mage.
He speculates that the Grand Duke was summoned to coordinate the inclusion of his vassal families.
Poland turns away from his work, acknowledging that he anticipated the Duke's skeptical reaction.
The Grand Duke stares forward with a calm, stoic intensity.
Poland informs him that the third young master is currently occupied training with the lady.
Surprised by this development, the Grand Duke questions why Arius is training alongside Daphne.
Poland describes their relentless training schedule, noting that even Arius is struggling to keep up with the girl's intensity.
He warns that her indomitable will is masking the fact that her body is rapidly reaching its limits.
Poland leans against his desk, troubled by the lady's refusal to acknowledge her physical fragility. He expresses concern that she is pursuing a hopeless dream with a body that is already broken. The Grand Duke insists that her choice to hope or despair is a freedom that no one can take from her. Sitting in his carriage, the Grand Duke dismisses Poland's worries as useless and threatens to end their communication. Poland asks if he truly believes training will allow the lady to accomplish anything meaningful. Looking back on his own training, the Grand Duke recalls that his purpose was always to defeat his enemies.
He admits that he allows her to try because doing nothing while the outcome is uncertain would cause too much regret.
A sudden, heavy thud sounds as the rock-weighted pole slips from exhausted hands. Arius collapses onto the ground in total fatigue while Daphne looks down, calling him a weak fool.
A sudden, quick pop sounds as Daphne forces a recovery potion into the coughing boy's mouth.
Arius pleads for her to be gentler, but she mockingly offers to make him spit the potion back out instead. Catching his breath, Arius praises Daphne's amazing stamina and notes how much she has improved since being bedridden. Daphne boastfully asks if he's only now realizing how impressive she truly is. Arius retorts that she would be even better if she simply learned to keep her mouth shut.
A sudden, quick shout sounds as an aide interrupts their bickering to call out to the young masters.
Pollen expresses shock at her recovery, jokingly asking if she drank a strengthening potion by mistake. Running toward the Grand Duke, Daphne gleefully announces her success in completing the rigorous training.
Pollen and Arius observe from a distance, noting how much the father and daughter resemble each other.
The Grand Duke announces his departure and promises to teach Daphne sword techniques to practice while he is away. He emphasizes that these lessons are meant only for her as he begins to walk away.
Arius watches them go, his expression blank as he processes his father's words. Arius smiles slightly, realizing that the outcome of the training was always going to be obvious.
He decides to head back to the Knights, figuring his father's techniques are taught there regardless.
His gaze turns somber as he reflects on his place within the family.
A soft, quick tug sounds as a hand seizes the boy's sleeve.
Daphne pulls Arius along with her, insisting that he is going the wrong way.
Surprised by the invitation, Arius asks if it is truly acceptable for him to join her.
Daphne questions why it wouldn't be okay, while Pollen awkwardly suggests that their situations are quite different.
Daphne argues that Arius is the Duke's son and shouldn't be discriminated against, while the boy tries to stop her.
The Grand Duke looks back at his son with a cold, unreadable expression.
Arius looks up with wide, hopeful eyes as he awaits his father's response. A sudden, heavy thump sounds as Arius clutches his chest, feeling a surge of intense emotion.
He resolves to stand proudly as his father's child, his determination mirrored in the glowing stars behind him. The narration describes the galaxy sword as the universe itself, distant and alluring to all humans.
To master the path, one must experience the birth, growth, and inevitable death of the universe.
A soft, quick crackle sounds from the fire as the story notes that everyone draws their own universe. The Grand Duke addresses the children in the training yard. In the training yard, his presence looming large. Daphne asks if Arius actually understands the complex lecture, and he confidently confirms that he does.
Arius laughs off the concern, insisting he is far too intelligent to struggle with such a simple lecture.
Daphne feels a cold sweat as she realizes the Grand Duke's teaching is far more complex than the simple methods she used in her past life.
While Arius is eager to discuss the concept of sword aura, Daphne remains unimpressed by what she considers common knowledge.
Demonstrating the comet wave slash, the Grand Duke's blade leaves glowing celestial trails that dance through the air.
Arius marvels at the after images left behind while the Duke commands them to master the technique for practical combat.
Asked if she understood the lesson, a confused and chibified Daphne accidentally calls the move the comet butt poke.
Arius frantically shouts the correct name of the technique while Daphne finds the official title to be unnecessarily pretentious.
Daphne privately compares the move to Vertio's crude afterimage technique, relieved that the Duke's version has a less embarrassing name.
A soft, quick pop sounds as Daphne cracks her neck, confidently announcing her intention to attempt the technique immediately despite Arius's shock.
Ignoring the boy's claim that copying a move after one look is impossible, Daphne begins to manifest a glowing aura around her wooden sword.
Arius demands to know how she managed such a feat, but Daphne nonchalantly credits her success to simple trial and error.
Daphne realizes her physical limits are approaching as her body throbs with a sudden sharp ache from the exertion. Thinking about the time it will take to restore her magic, Daphne is startled when the Grand Duke calls out her name.
The Grand Duke observes her with a deeply analytical and contemplative expression. He questions whether this was truly her first time witnessing the sword's first form. Standing before endless doors and a starry void, the girl reflects on the years of failure and investment required to master such skill. Daphne wonders if her display of talent was too careless, potentially revealing more than she intended.
The Duke considers if she inherited his own talent, while Daphne is baffled by the comparison and wonders if he has lost his mind.
A sudden, sharp shout sounds as Daphne rages over the Duke's minimal praise, demanding more recognition for her performance.
Arius reassures her that even a small compliment is high praise given their father's stoic personality.
The Grand Duke requests to see the technique once more, his curiosity clearly piqued. Daphne smugly agrees to another demonstration, assuming he simply wants to admire her perfection again. Narrowing his blue eyes, the Duke watches intently, hoping to confirm the strange phenomenon he witnessed. He is convinced that a spectral presence overlapped with Daphne's movements during her first attempt.
A vision of a ghost-like figure guiding the girl's blade reinforces the Duke's need to see her perform again.
Brimming with confidence, Daphne offers to show him the technique as many times as he desires.
A sudden, loud shout sounds as an aide rushes into the training yard, claiming to have urgent news from the imperial court.
The aide describes the composition of a specialized subjugation force, noting the contribution of several noble houses.
A soft, quick swish sounds as the Grand Duke unrolls a scroll, suspecting there is more to the messenger's arrival.
The aide confirms that an additional member has been added to the mission at the last moment.
A heavy, oppressive intensity fills the air as the Grand Duke stares at the name of Lady Daphne on the official roster.
Paulin clutches his head in disbelief, questioning the logic of sending a 5-year-old child into a dark mage conflict.
The Grand Duke wonders if this is the Emperor's direct order or a scheme by rival families to weaken his house.
A soft, quick crunch sounds as he crumples the paper in his fist, incensed by the blatant underestimation of the Grand Duke's household.
Vowing to crush whoever is behind the scheme, the Duke orders Paulin to prepare an immediate rejection of the summons.
As the Duke forbids her participation, he is surprised to see Daphne peeking out from behind a pillar, having heard the entire conversation.
A bright light radiates from the girl's excited expression as she considers the mission.
Daphne enthusiastically accepts the call to action, telling the adults not to worry about her safety.
Correcting her slip of the tongue about devouring them, she vows to defeat every dark mage in the subjugation force's path.
Paulin fruitlessly tries to hold the struggling girl back as she demands to be set free to join the battle.
The scene shifts to the Guardians' barracks near the Capitol walls, where many tents and soldiers are gathered. Soldiers laugh and shout as they move supplies through the busy camp, preparing for the upcoming campaign.
Within a quiet tent, a figure in a hooded white cloak stands over a desk, illuminated by a single candle.
A soft, quick rustle sounds as two boys burst into the room, calling out for someone named Rach.
The boys excitedly claim to have heard an incredible story from their captain that they need to verify.
Picking up one of the eager children, the youth in the cloak asks what kind of story has them so riled up.
The boys mention the hero Daphne, causing the hooded figure to flinch with a sudden, sharp intake of breath.
Rache Action, the eldest son of the Action family, confirms with a gentle smile that the hero is indeed his sister.
The children marvel at her fame and her heroic deeds, while Rach laughs nervously at the attention his sister is receiving.
A heavy, sudden thud sounds as a boot strikes the floor, and a new voice mockingly questions who is calling Daphne Action a hero.
Kenrick greets Rach, warning the boy not to be swayed by rumors, as both Rach and his chibi self react in shock.
Two children excitedly greet Kendrick Dryde, the legendary gray wolf of the northern battlefield, known for his fearsome red eyes.
The boys ask Kenrick what he meant by the rumors regarding Lady Daphne.
A sudden, quick thud sounds as Kenrick places his hands on the boys' heads, preparing to share what he considers the truth.
With a menacing smile, Kendrick declares that Daphne Action is no hero.
An unseen speaker suggests that while she may not be a hero, Daphne did risk her life to save people. Kenrick remains unmoved, standing with his arms crossed in a smug posture. Describing Daphne as cruel and wicked, Kendrick claims her atrocities would take 2 nights to list, causing the children to doubt her. A soft, quick swish sounds as Kenrick points to Rach, naming him as the very person Daphne tormented. Kenrick closes his eyes and smiles, acknowledging that speaking ill of the boy's sister might be awkward for Rach to hear.
Rach stands silently, his face a mask of calm as he processes Kenrick's words.
Rach smiles and notes that facts are important, while privately denouncing the idea of a fake hero.
The boys are left disillusioned, realizing the rumors of Daphne's heroism were lies.
A soft, quick patter sounds as the boys run away while Kenrick waves them off, telling them not to be swayed by rumors again. Kenrick and Rach watch the children depart the training room.
A sudden, loud shout sounds as Rach explodes in rage once the children are out of sight, a reaction Kenrick fully expected.
Rach rages about Daphne's survival, while Kenrick marvels at the boy's ability to hide such a volatile personality in daily life.
Rach explains that he joined the Guardians specifically to avoid ever seeing Daphne's face again.
A soft, quick crunch sounds as Rach kicks an apple while ranting about the Imperial Court's insanity in drafting a child.
Kenrick admits that he agrees with Rach's frustration regarding the subjugation force.
Kenrick warns Rach to watch his tone given their age difference, though the boy remains unimpressed.
Kenrick suggests that the mission will serve as a chance to prove the rumors about Daphne are false in front of everyone.
Rach realizes that once the mission is over, the knights will naturally reveal the truth of the girl's nature.
Rach considers the logic of the plan as Kenrick begins to slip away.
Kenrick is certain that Daphne is bound to cause trouble as soon as she arrives.
A soft, quick grab sounds as Kendrick seizes Rachel's shoulder, assuming the girl's pride will break under public scrutiny.
A close-up of Kenrick reveals his mocking smirk as he plots against the Gav.
A close-up of Rach shows his intense, focused gaze as he weighs the situation.
Rach mockingly praises Kendrick's ability to read moods as a skill sharpened only on the battlefield.
Kenrick asks if Daphne's foster father is coming, and Rach clarifies that only the girl is joining the force.
A soft, quick crunch sounds as Kenrick bites the apple while Rache scoffs at the idea of family.
Rach pulls up his hood and walks out, stating he doesn't care about the family that abandoned him.
Narration explains Rach's background as a fallen noble from the war 10 years ago.
Hero's action adopted Raish after the death of his friend, Duke Ebet, as shown in a solemn vision of the past.
Narration notes that the Grand Duke's household went too far after taking the boy in.
A soft, quick crunch sounds as Kendrick finishes his apple, observing that Rach is already mentally bruised.
Back at the estate, a green-haired elf man kneels before Daphne, admitting his failure to bring the great sage.
Daphne's eyes glow with a menacing red light as the elf frantically mentions a contract mark that reveals the sage's location. Daphne mocks the elf's wasted efforts and demands to know the sage's message. A close-up of Daphne's green eye highlights her focus on the report that the sage mentioned causality.
Daphne is intrigued by the human sage's knowledge of causality, a law known to very few.
She becomes curious about the true depth of the great sage's knowledge.
The elf man looks confused as Daphne realizes he missed an important question.
A soft, quick scuff sounds as the elf admits he forgot to ask further questions, leading Daphne to question his competence.
Daphne announces her participation in the subjugation while the elf reveals he delegated tasks to a human named Vipera. A sudden, quick jump sounds as Daphne gleefully orders the elf to prepare for the mission as well.
The elf man protests, reminding her that he is merely a doctor and shouldn't be involved in battle.
Daphne turns away, noting that she has mastered her new body strength to a significant degree. Releasing a terrifying dragon fear aura, Daphne sends the elf into a state of absolute terror.
A sudden loud shout sounds as the terrified elf hides and begs for his life, pledging complete obedience to Daphne.
Daphne smirks with a secret plan. Standing in the doorway, Daphne accepts the elf's sentiment.
A soft, quick swish sounds as Daphne departs, leaving the elf doctor flustered. Daphne walks away into the sunlight.
The departure day for the subjugation force finally arrives.
A soft, quick top sounds as someone questions bringing a child along.
Arius rants about everyone's sanity, prompting Poland to question if the Duke is included.
Arius yells, hoping Daphne will change her mind at the last second.
Poland sighs, explaining the mission is a scheme born of jealousy.
Arius shouts that Daphne doesn't care about labels or her reputation.
Arius rants about her rotten temper just as Daphne appears behind him.
Arius desperately blames Lloyd while Daphne considers her history of violence and lets it pass.
Daphne declares her intent to catch every dark mage.
Arius watches her with deep concern.
Arius asks if this is for revenge, confusing the young girl.
Daphne wonders why the men around her are obsessed with revenge.
Arius apologizes for being pathetic and whining instead of cheering her on.
Arius flashes a bright, happy smile.
Daphne remains focused and stoic.
Kenrick calls for a break to perform maintenance before departing again.
Rach asks Fiona if she can feel the tension in the air.
Fiona notes the knights have been glaring since they left the capital.
Rach attributes the glares to his beauty while Fiona cites professional jealousy.
Fiona gives a flat, unimpressed look. Stretching his arms, Rach insists he isn't just some little kid. Fiona asks Kenrick if he has heard anything from Reach recently.
Narration explains Daphne is joining Midway due to the route's path.
Rach asks Kenrick if he knows anything about the lady joining them.
Rach claims to be worried about her safety, but Kenrick calls his bluff. Kendrick demands Rach stop putting on airs as the man laughs.
Remembering their rivalry, Rach tells Kendrick not to get cocky over minor wins.
Kendrick points out that Rach is talking a lot for a loser. A soft, quick swish sounds as Kendrick draws his blade, demanding the truth.
They agree that only bad things will come from this girl's rival. Rach prepares to share his true feelings about his sister.
Narrowing his red eye, Kendrick declares that Daphne action is literally trash.
Rach and Kendrick agree the girl is a brat and a fake hero. Kendrick insists they need to see people as they truly are.
A sudden, loud sneeze sounds as Daphne reacts to the insults.
Daphne wonders who is slandering her while the elf doctor offers a correction. Narration confirms they have safely joined up with the main force.
An aide explains the formation, placing Daphne in the protected center. Several knights glance back at the girl with suspicious looks.
Daphne feels like a spectacle and demands to know why they're staring. Riding together, the elf doctor chuckles at the girl's annoyance.
Rach stands as a silhouette, representing his role as the first son. Daphne suggests calling her brother over to ask him directly.
Daphne calls out to a knight who is startled by her attention.
The knight stammers in surprise at the girl's sudden question.
A sudden, quick thud sounds as the horses continue their journey forward.
A sudden question breaks the silence.
The elf doctor recalls hearing that Rach is the son of a friend to the hero.
He speculates that their poor relationship stems from Daphne's severe mistreatment of him.
He notes rumors that Rach joined the Knights solely to escape Daphne's physical and verbal abuse.
Daphne laments the past version of herself for picking fights with everyone as the group continues their journey.
Rach rides atop a brown horse.
Rach offers a friendly greeting.
Daphne maintains a cold, impassive expression.
Her indifference is met with a sudden, soft sigh sounding.
Rach points out the irony of her silence since she was the one who summoned him.
Daphne dismisses him immediately, and Rach walks away with a bitter, shadowed smile. The elf doctor is surprised by Daphne's coldness, while Rach rides off in silence.
A vision of the past reveals Rach begging his mother not to send him away for adoption.
His mother ignores his tears, stating they will receive money in exchange for him. Rach realizes the decision was purely selfish despite his mother's claims of poverty.
He sees through her lies, noting her expensive jewelry proves she valued trinkets more than her own son.
Rach recalls his constant anxiety about being abandoned again despite receiving affection. He found hope when Vipera and Arius were adopted, viewing the Akshan family as his true kin.
A somber memory shows the siblings standing together in mourning.
A sudden, loud wail sounds from a baby as the Grand Duke abandoned the children after the Duchess's death. Rach felt the weight of protecting his siblings while hoping for their father's return. A young Daphne cruelly berated Rach for remaining in their house without pride.
Daphne's past insults echo in Rach's mind as he watches her in the present.
Rach admits that looking at Daphne's face is still painful and wishes she would leave.
A pot boils over an open campfire.
The elf doctor plays a peaceful tune on a wooden lyre.
The company settles in for the night as the music fills the forest camp. Kenrick and Fiona watch the peaceful scene with total confusion. A knight kindly serves Daphne a cup of warm drink. Kenrick is baffled by the unexpectedly warm reception the girl is receiving. Narration explains that the Guardians were supposed to impress the Grand Duke.
Fiona angrily accuses Kenrick of lying about Daphne being an uncontrollable monster.
Fiona rages that they all ignored the girl based on Kenrick's false reports.
Kenrick nervously tries to claim it was all a simple misunderstanding.
The knights continue to treat Daphne with warmth and adoration. Fiona remains unconvinced and suggests provoking the girl to see her true nature. A sudden quick swish sounds as Fiona marches toward the camp to test the trout.
Kenrick believes the 5-year-old child will eventually slip up and reveal herself.
Daphne enjoys the warmth of her drink, unaware of the plots against her.
The elf doctor reveals he extorted the harp from another elf just for Daphne's sake.
A sudden soft ting sounds as the elf expresses his desire to stay by Daphne's side forever.
Daphne's teasing comment sends the elf into a state of visible terror.
The knights enjoy the sad music while the narration ponders the origin of dragon rumors.
The elf doctor performs for the gathered crowd.
The knights politely ask to join Daphne by the fire.
Heavy footsteps approach the girl with a formal greeting. Kendrick introduces himself as a guardian and a friend of her brother.
Daphne offers a skeptical, brief response while continuing to sip her drink.
Daphne is fully aware that many in the camp still hold a grudge against her.
Kendrick offers a drink while asking about her presence. He admits his concern that the rough camping meals wouldn't satisfy her palate.
Her stomach is about to burst from the sudden, heavy meal.
After praising the cooking, Kendrick asks if her sleeping arrangements are acceptable.
Her attention is caught by a sudden, quick scuff sounding as he points to the floor.
A sudden, loud fanfare sounds as a notification introduces a natural, eco-friendly bed.
Fiona is confused as Kendrick explains that Daphne built her own outdoor sleeping quarters. Kendrick is certain it must be a trick because the girl he knew was incapable of this.
A sudden, quick crackle sounds from the fire as Daphne asks why she's being called. Kendrick expresses his worry that the harsh night air will worsen her fragile health.
He suggests finding a nearby village where a warm bed and better food await her.
A sudden, soft sigh sounds as the girl grows weary of the forced fussing.
Standing before them, she addresses Kenrick by name to get his full attention.
A sudden, heavy thud sounds as she steps forward, acknowledging that they all hate her.
Rach is startled by her blunt admission that she is used to being despised.
The scene shifts to their primary objective of subjugating the dark mages. She warns that they have forgotten their duty just to damage her personal reputation.
A sudden, long silence sounds as the tension between the two remains thick. A sudden, quick swish sounds as Fiona returns from patrol and senses the strange atmosphere.
A sudden, bright flare sounds as Kendrick admits he lost focus on their actual mission.
A sudden, quick spin sounds as Kendrick apologizes and tells her to continue resting.
Fiona calls out in confusion as Kenrick walks away with a shadowed expression.
Daphne watches the interaction with a stoic and unreadable gaze.
A sudden, quick patter sounds as Fiona runs after Kenrick to demand an explanation.
A sudden, sharp stop sounds as Kenrick reveals that Daphne already knew of their hatred.
He explains that she knew they were trying to drive her away while everyone watched.
He notes she prioritized the mission over complaints, understanding the situation better than them.
A sudden, soft laugh sounds as Kenrick admits he feels pathetic and ashamed.
A sudden, soft hesitation sounds as he speaks her brother's name.
A sudden, sharp burst sounds as Fiona refuses to believe that Daphne has truly changed.
Kendrick suggests she watch the girl just once more to see the reality for herself. A sudden soft rustle sounds as Fiona decides to clear her head before returning. A sudden low mumble sounds as she questions the idea of observing the girl.
She wonders if Daphne will be loved while her own pain remains unacknowledged.
She recalls the knights laughing and welcoming the girl into their circle.
A sudden loud slam sounds as Fiona punches the tree, vowing to expose Daphne's nature.
On the second evening, the elf doctor approaches the girl as she works.
He gestures toward the tree, asking if she intends to leave Rach hiding him.
Rach watches from the shadows, wondering where his sister learned such survival skills.
A sudden loud snap sounds as a branch breaks, and Daphne mocks the hiding knight.
A sudden soft bark sounds as a vision depicts their master-servant dynamic.
Daphne asks if he hates humans, but he clarifies that isn't the case.
He admits he finds humans stupid and annoying because they are beneath his kind.
A sudden soft chuckle sounds as Daphne finds his arrogance toward humans amusing.
A sudden loud crash sounds as the elf is devastated by being compared to humans.
The elf complains that the girl is far too lenient with the human race.
A sudden tight snap sounds as Daphne explains that the strong must protect the weak.
The elf remains confused, questioning why anyone should protect those who are naturally weak.
A sudden bright smile sounds as Daphne asks if he expects to be strong forever.
Narration ponders the duty of every existence. Daphne explains strength is for protecting others.
The elf remains stubborn about human elb. Fiona makes a grand and sparkly entrance.
Fiona explains the upcoming journey through ruins while Daphne protests the history lesson.
Daphne questions the relevance of ancient earthquakes.
The scene shifts to the barren marshland. Daphne explains the earthquake was a mistake while the elf doctor asks if humans survived.
Fiona boasts about her father's dragon victory.
Fiona realizes Daphne cannot hear her reassurances.
Fiona and Kendrick watch the camp warily.
They discuss the girl's unusually polite behavior. Fiona remains suspicious of the girl's intentions.
Kenrick responds with a silent, confused scratch.
Fiona ponders the Grand Duke's secret monas. She suggests he hoped they would reconcile despite his lack of interest in others.
Fiona resolves to ignore the girl entirely.
Night falls as Daphne walks through Metz.
Daphne complains about the long day's travel.
She resents her father's mandatory training sessions.
A sudden soft splash sounds as her boot hits the marsh.
A sudden quick rustle sounds as a hooded figure appears in the trees.
Daphne is shocked to encounter dark mages. The mages debate killing the young child.
Daphne confronts them for their sloppy plotting. She reveals she wants their death aura.
Daphne asks why they've come to this area.
The mages boast about seeking the calamity.
Daphne realizes their goals might overlap.
A sudden heavy thud sounds as a mage kicks his talkative companion.
A mage attacks with dark, swirling energy. The death aura surges toward the girl.
Daphne dodges with incredible, swift agility.
Daphne prepares a powerful counter incantation. A sudden loud boom sounds as a mage laughs amidst the settling smoke.
Daphne remains completely unharmed by the attack.
A sudden bright flare sounds as Daphne's hand begins to glow.
Daphne admits 3-on-1 is too many.
She intentionally signals the rest of camp.
A sudden loud shout sounds as a mage realizes he's been tricked.
Fiona orders Rach to guard the base.
Fiona wonders why dark mages appeared now.
The elf doctor joins the search effort.
Fiona worries Daphne found the mazes first.
A sudden loud crash sounds as Fiona realizes Daphne has disappeared.
Knights charge blindly into the dark woods.
Fiona warns of the dangerous death aura.
Daphne watches the battle from a tree. She evaluates the knight's combat effectiveness.
Daphne decides to let the knights finish.
Daphne stares with intense focus, deciding it is better to sacrifice her magic power than risk being discovered by him.
Fiona and the elf doctor sprint through the darkened forest, desperately calling out for the missing girl.
A sudden sharp huff sounds as Fiona furiously berates the elf doctor for failing in his duty to guard the child.
Hidden nearby, Daphne watches them with a cynical gaze, wondering why anyone, especially Rachel, would bother looking for her. A sudden soft hum sounds as the girl remains out of sight, observing the frantic search party from the shadows. A sudden quick dash sounds as Daphne reveals herself, announcing her presence and startling the worried pair.
A sudden loud bark sounds as Fiona scolds the girl for being so far out while a dangerous battle with mages is underway.
Relieved that the child is found, Fiona firmly takes her hand to lead her back to the safety of the camp. Daphne resists the pull, insisting she must stay to absorb the lingering aura left by the dark mages.
Fiona grows increasingly frantic, warning the girl that she will be seriously injured if she stays near the dark energy.
A sudden heavy crash sounds as Fiona's desperate warning is cut short by a violent impact.
A sudden sharp hiss sounds as Fiona shields the girl, taking a brutal hit to the arm that leaves her bleeding and gasping.
Fiona winces in agony, asking the girl why she put herself in such a reckless position as the elf doctor rushes to their side. Stunned by the act of protection, Daphne asks the knight why she would save someone she claims to hate.
A sudden sharp snap sounds as Fiona ignores her own pain, shouting that the girl's survival is more important than their personal feelings.
Fiona clutches her mangled, bloody arm, admitting she is uncertain of what the girl truly thinks of her.
She confesses that while her hatred is real, she could never stand by and watch the girl die.
Fiona reminds the child that after a lifetime of illness, she shouldn't throw her life away in a place like this.
A sudden low groan sounds as Fiona's strength begins to fail from the severity of her injury.
Fiona collapses forward into the girl's arms, weakly calling out for Rach as she loses consciousness.
Daphne looks down at the fallen knight with a deeply conflicted and somber expression. Narration questions whether the girl could ever show the same level impartial generosity to another person.
Daphne realizes that while the knights are risking their lives for her, she was only focused on selfishly increasing her own power.
A sudden tight squeeze sounds as the girl grips the fabric of Fiona's torn and blood-soaked sleeve.
Daphne commandingly orders the elf doctor to tend to the wounded knight, leaving him baffled by her sudden change in attitude.
A sudden loud pop sounds as the girl uncorks a potion, disregarding the elf's warning that she is exposing her secrets to the knights. A sudden soft rustle sounds as Daphne declares that if she doesn't act now, she will never be able to atone for her behavior. On the front lines, a dark mage growls in frustration at the stubborn persistence of the defending knights.
A sudden, long roar sounds as a mage unleashes a massive, swirling blast of dark energy toward the knight.
A sudden, sharp stop sounds as the mage is horrified to see his death aura frozen midair by the girl's presence.
Rage frantically warns the girl to flee, while the mage recognizes her as the child he encountered earlier.
In a cold and dangerous mood, Daphne prepares to end the confrontation immediately. A sudden, sharp pierce sounds as the girl effortlessly turns the mage's own dark magic back against him.
The mage collapses, coughing up blood and gasping in disbelief at the power he just witnessed.
A sudden heavy thud sounds as the mage falls, realizing that the girl is not just controlling his power, but actively absorbing it.
Daphne's eyes glow with a predatory purple light as she claims the power was always rightfully hers.
A sudden, loud scream sounds as the mage is completely overwhelmed and defeated.
Shortly after the skirmish, the girl stands calmly by the tied-up mages, brushing dust off her clothes.
Using her authority, she tells the knight to pull himself together and take charge of the prisoners.
A sudden quick jump sounds as the startled knight immediately obeys the young girl's command.
Rach watches her walk away, completely baffled as to how a child could perform such impossible magic.
The knights discuss their shock, noting that the death aura should have killed anyone who touched it.
Fiona explains to the group that the girl is afflicted by a curse that allows her to manipulate the dark energy.
The elf doctor arrives to support the claim, stating the curse was cast by dark mages.
Daphne offers a casual thumbs up, satisfied that her true origins remain hidden behind the lie of a curse.
She reinforces the story, explaining that the curse simply changed how her body interacts with the death aura.
While the knights gossip about the dangerous side effects of such a curse, Daphne privately thinks about how delicious the energy tasted.
A sudden wet cough sounds as the girl spits up blood, blaming the supposed drug side effects to maintain her cover. A sudden loud shout sounds as the knights panic, seeing the girl's fragile state and fearing for her life.
The scene shifts to a somber village inn the following morning, where a heavy and gloomy atmosphere hangs over the group.
Nike worries that something unfortunate might happen to the young lady.
Fiona sternly tells Nike to refrain from speaking so carelessly about such grim possibilities.
A sudden soft sigh sounds as Nike recalls the intense pain the girl seemed to be in after absorbing the death aura. A heavy, gloomy silence hangs over the pair as they sit together in the dimly lit room.
The brown-haired knight wonders aloud if the Grand Duke orchestrated this entire situation as a test.
He speculates that the Duke intentionally sent the girl along as a secret safety measure against the dark mages.
Rach dismisses the idea, stating that the Duke isn't the type of person to plan such intricate schemes for others.
Fiona angrily confronts the knight, accusing him of using baseless speculation to avoid feeling guilty about their own weakness.
The knight is taken aback by her sudden outburst and attempts to defend his line of thinking.
Realizing his error, the knight bows deeply to show his sincere apology to the senior officers.
Fiona's mind is plagued by the memory of the girl asking why she would save someone she hates.
Frustrated by her conflicting emotions, Fiona slams her fists onto the table while reaffirming her deep-seated dislike for the child. Fiona looks down with a complicated expression, trying to reconcile her past suffering with the girl's current actions.
A sudden bright flare sounds as Fiona's eyes snap wide in shock at a sudden presence in the doorway.
Daphne slowly makes her way down the stairs, grumpily ordering everyone to stay quiet because of her headache. The young girl stops and begins to scan the room with an inquisitive and wary look.
She continues to look around, seemingly searching for a specific reaction or person among the group.
Daphne finally addresses the knights, questioning why they are all gathered in such a somber manner.
Fiona is noticeably startled to see the child awake and moving around so soon after her collapse.
Daphne reflects on Fiona's unexpected act of protection, feeling a rare urge to express her thoughts properly.
An ethereal vision of Fiona shielding her from harm lingers in the girl's memory.
A sudden, soft scratch sounds as Daphne awkwardly rubs her cheek while trying to decide what to say.
Fiona remains silent, watching the girl's unusual behavior with a skeptical and watchful eye.
Elsewhere, a mysterious, long-haired man walks through a brilliant and shimmering landscape of light.
He smiles to himself, noting with satisfaction that Lady Daphne has successfully achieved her objective.
The man declares that the time has come for the girl to break free from the chains of causality.
Narration explains that the knights eventually return to the imperial court with their prisoners in tow.
Nike waves cheerfully as the group approaches the destination with the captured dark mages.
Rach turns to the girl and firmly tells her that it is time for her to return to safety.
He points out that her current physical condition is far from normal and she needs rest.
A sudden quick jump sounds as Daphne leaps up, loudly insisting that she is in perfect health.
A status window shows that Daphne's magic power has grown to 230, fueling her desire to stay and absorb more.
Daphne mocks the knights, reminding them how useless they were against the dark magic of the mages.
She arrogantly claims that they will all perish without her help and demands to be taken along.
Narration ponders how humans value their own lives, which may explain their willingness to listen to her.
Daphne continues her boastful speech, convinced that the knights won't dare to object to her presence.
Behind Race, the other knights are visibly moved, misinterpreting the girl's arrogance as a selfless desire to protect them.
A sudden, loud sob sounds as the knights break down in tears, touched by what they believe is the lady's kindness.
A sudden soft tap sounds as Fiona places a gentle, reassuring hand on the young girl's shoulder.
Fiona tells the girl that it is okay to go back now, leaving Daphne completely baffled by the soft tone.
Fiona reveals that she spent a long time staying in the background during her days as a mere apprentice.
She confesses that watching the girl's strength has inspired her to fully embrace her role as a warrior.
The knight looks ahead with renewed determination and a sense of duty she hadn't felt before.
A sudden sharp snap sounds as Daphne crossly brushes the hand away, questioning what weaklings could possibly achieve.
Daphne continues her tirade, asking if they have a death wish, while Rach tries to calm her down.
Rach expresses his gratitude for her concern, but maintains that the knights are capable of handling themselves.
He makes a solemn promise that they will not allow a single life to be lost on their watch.
Fiona and Rach stand with heads held high, projecting an aura of confidence and strength.
The entire knight squad stands united, ready to face whatever dangers lie ahead.
Daphne stares at them in silence, appearing genuinely surprised by the unexpected resolve shown by the humans.
The young girl sighs deeply.
A sudden sharp snap sounds as Daphne calls for the elf, who immediately kneels and pledges to follow his master's every word.
Daphne tells the elf to follow the knights and help them, but he loudly protests that he has no desire to do so.
The elf's attitude shifts instantly when the girl promises to forgive his previous mistakes if he follows her orders.
Daphne commands the elf not to let anyone die, while the knights express shock that she can control a race known for ignoring the emperor.
The knights wonder about the cost of hiring the elf, unaware that the doctor is actually working for free as Daphne rewards him with a head pat.
A voice calls Daphne's name.
A sudden sharp step sounds as Fiona thanks the girl for her help while making it clear she has not yet been forgiven.
Fiona stares with intense resolve.
A sudden quick brush sounds as Fiona awkwardly ends the conversation, while Daphne privately laments that they haven't become as close as she had hoped. A sudden firm grip sounds as Fiona grabs the girl's shoulders and tells her that if she feels that way, it can't be helped, so she should take her medicine properly and see an imperial physician when she gets back, making sure Arius doesn't bother her and Vipera doesn't bring her weird medicine.
They return to the estate. Daphne sits in exhausted silence.
Daphne reads the morning paper.
A sudden sharp slap sounds as the Grand Duke slams his desk, demanding an explanation for the girl's massive accident as a sudden cold chill sounds.